I get you.
I wasn't lying back on the sofa. I was kind of hoovering underneath it rather than lying on it.
I can read between the lines.
Yeah.
All right, Lee, see you Wednesday.
What do you mean Wednesday?
Well, see you tomorrow. I thought today was Tuesday.
I was thinking, is tomorrow the bank holiday? No, it's next week.
All right, Lee. Bye-bye. Take care of yourself. That's Lee Gooch. Back with you tomorrow morning at 6:30. It is at 9 o'clock now, slightly after. Let's say good morning, Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Housing Minister says he expects the enhanced effective block scheme regulations to be published in the coming weeks. Minister Darragh O'Brien has confirmed that affected homeowners are to be consulted this week on the draft regulations. He says that he intends to include a provision in the scheme for costs for certified works already incurred, while the SCSI is carrying out a review of costings also. Minister O'Brien says people engaging with the current scheme will benefit from the enhanced regulations.
We had over 150 applications in Donegal processed and through the stages actually since December, and we've provided assistance there as well to make sure that people's applications are actually processed and homes now are being remediated, but we want to see that step up significantly. Regulations are coming down the track very, very shortly. As I said, I expect by the end of February. But there won't be any delay in accessing, because people who access the old scheme and apply will get the uplift of the enhanced scheme.
Almost €9 million is to be invested in 8 projects in Killybegs. The funding's been announced by Marine Minister Charlie McConlogue under the Fishery, Harbour and Coastal Infrastructure Development Programme. The biggest tranche of the funding will go towards a continuation of work on the Smooth Point Pier extension. Minister McConlogue says the allocation recognises the importance of Killybegs.
This €9 million that I'm investing now, €7.5 million, which will be for the ongoing and continuation of the work that's there, will bring it significantly towards completion. So overall, it's a significant continuation of the investment that has gone into Killybegs Pier and Harbour to ensure that it retains its position not just as the preeminent port nationally, but also a very significant fishing centre internationally.
And Lifford Greyhound Stadium is to reopen in April. In a notice issued by the stadium, it's been confirmed that racing will return on Sunday, April the 2nd. A race has not been held in Lifford since 2019 after the stadium closed its doors due to what it said was an ongoing lack of support from the Irish Greyhound Board. It was then expected to reopen in March of last year. Councillor Jerry Crawford has been welcoming the latest announcement.
There's always been greyhounds in Lifford up until recently. It's always brought people there. There's always been a focus for the people who have that interest and follow it. And there was an awful void for those people when it was absent. And I'm sure that they, above all, will be delighted to see it back again. But it is a welcome boost to the economy of the town, and just bringing a great facility back into life again.
Weather now, scattered showers this morning with brighter sunny spells developing, highest temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
At Ulster Bank, our team is continuing to close current and deposit accounts, along with some of our branches. At this time, if your notice period and your deadline has passed, your account is now queued for closure. All personal and business account deadlines are fast approaching. You must take urgent action. If you are still relying on your bank account and in need of more support, please contact us immediately. Visit ulsterbank.ie, your local branch, or call 0818 210 260. Call costs may vary and calls from mobiles may not be free. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9 this Monday, the 30th of January. How are you keeping? I do hope you're very well indeed. And thank you so much for choosing us once again for your entertainment on a Monday morning. Lots coming up on the show, as you can imagine. Brendan Devaney's back, by the way. We're going to be discussing yesterday's great game. I thought it was a great game anyway. Maybe it's because we haven't watched inter-county game in quite some time, or I haven't at least. We'll be discussing that and everything else that's coming up on his DL debate later today here on Highland Radio. That and so much more besides. You can watch this programme as you can every morning, of course. Go on to our website, highlandradio.com, click Watch Live, or go on to YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, so you can watch on your smart TV, your Fire Stick, or Facebook Watch on the same devices. Just search out Highland Radio there. And join the conversation, get involved. Right, okay, let's have a look at what's making the newspaper front pages this morning, starting with the Donegal News. Final preparations are being made as thousands prepared to attend the Together for Creesla concert in the Ora Leisure Centre tonight. The concert, which is a sold-out event, is in aid of the Creesla tragedy, where 10 people lost their lives in an explosion at the Applegreen service station on the afternoon of Friday, October 7th, 2022. The highly anticipated show will see a star-studded lineup travel to Letterkenny for the concert, which sold out within 12 hours. With doors set to open at 7 p.m, the concert will feature some of the biggest names in Irish music, including Brian McFadden, Keith Duffy, Brian Kennedy, Mickey Joe Hart, Lisa McHugh, the Whistling Donkeys, and many more. So well done if you got a ticket, and hopefully you have an enjoyable night there. OK, the Derry News this morning. The annual remembrance service to commemorate those who were killed on Bloody Sunday was held yesterday at the Rossville Street Monument. Following the event, there was an unveiling of a plaque dedicated to the Derry Corps of the Order of Malta. SDLP leader Colm Eastwood MP has announced he will nominate the families of Bloody Sunday victims for the Nobel Peace Prize. Mr Eastwood, who was among those attending Sunday's 51st anniversary commemoration events, said he could think of no better tribute to the families given their commitment to peace and reconciliation during their long fight for truth and for justice. A really, really significant story broke yesterday as it relates to... Well, I'll read the story here. I don't see it covered extensively elsewhere. It was a Daily Mail exclusive. I don't know if that's why other papers are waiting to get their own angles on it, or if they're just letting it sort of fly not under the radar as such. But anyway, this is covered in the Irish Independent. Former health ministers Leo Varadkar and Micheál Martin will face questions this week over historic evidence the state had no legal basis to charge families for the care of their elderly relatives. It emerged over the weekend that to make restitution to all families affected would have cost the state around €13 billion. Sinn Féin wants answers to what the two men knew and when, after leaked internal government papers appeared to show a determination to force people to sue for compensation rather than coming forward with redress. So rather than sort of going to the public and say, we admit we've done wrong, this is how we are going to compensate you for what we have done, or what has been done to you, sorry. A mechanism was put in place to frustrate the process, to discourage people from making an appeal. It was marked top secret. The leaked documentation published in the Irish Mail on Sunday includes a battery of memos relating to a legal strategy apparently aimed at minimising the cost to the state while leaving some people impoverished by the care bills illegally charged. The problem goes back to the realisation that there may not have been any legal underpinning for charging patients for state-sponsored care in nursing homes with doubts evidence 20 years ago, and possibly more. The remedy was the creation of the Fair Deal scheme by Mary Harney, but her immediate predecessor as Minister for Health was Fianna Fáil leader Micheál Martin. A whistleblower provided the newspaper with a dossier indicating the 13 billion figure. In order to avoid such a huge outlay, and this is a strategy that's documented, it's alleged the strategy was deployed to bury the lack of legal basis, or at least assert that legality could be upheld by a court, meaning liability was effectively denied. Now, what happened was then that when people pursued, they had the resources to pursue it legally. When it came to the point of disclosure, then the government settled. Hundreds of court actions were nonetheless taken, with the strategy seeing the state resist any admission. Only when families had reached the point where the process of discovery was imminent, when the state would have to release all relative papers in its possession, was settlement pursued. In such cases, the amounts quietly paid reflected between 40 to 60% of the amounts outright. And in these documents, senior figures that were involved in this praised it. They said, happy days, this is working well. It's working really well what we're doing here. We're really limiting the payouts. All the while, regular people, often those with no resources who couldn't pursue this, were suffering. Their entire worth wiped out in some cases. As I say, I think it's an incredibly, incredibly significant story, and we'll see how it plays out over the course of the next couple of weeks. But it just isn't historic because it's the type of strategy that had to be reviewed from time to time. So many people were aware of it. 086 60 25,000 if that affects you. Supports and accommodation for refugees seeking shelter in Ireland could be time limited under proposals due to be considered by the government. This is according to the Irish Times. The Cabinet Committee on Ukraine will meet tomorrow with ministers set to discuss the shortage in national accommodation, including for those fleeing the war in Ukraine. Minister for Children Roderick O'Gorman will seek immediate access to buildings that belong to other government departments to create between 4 and 6 emergency temporary rest facilities in the coming weeks. The Department of Children has also finalised a paper examining what other European countries are offering refugees. It's understood that the paper shows Ireland is an outlier in terms of the type of accommodation offered to refugees, notably hotel accommodation. A senior government source said that in other European countries there are time limits on supports, particularly in terms of accommodation. Such measures will now be considered in terms of Ireland's policy response. On to the Irish Daily Mail now. And senior government figures are furious with Agriculture Minister Charlie McConalogue and Green Party Junior Minister Pippa Hackett over their failure to spot the political explosiveness of the Quilcha-Gresham House forestry deal. And I believe this is a story there'll be a U-turn on yet. The government can't scratch this deal, but they can change the terms under which money is granted through this scheme. And I think they're going to have to do that. Well, anyway, we'll see if that happens. Under the deal, private investors represented by the fund management firm Gresham House can invest up to €200 million purchasing Irish forestry. This will then be managed by Quilcha, the state body currently in charge of forestry. Speaking to News Talk, Mr McConalogue stressed the deal was not our preferred option. He also pledged in future we plan to work much more closely with Quilcha. However, a senior political figure warned it was once again too little too late. The genie's out of the bottle. Rural Ireland is suspicious and furious. A land war is next on the agenda. The original deal sparked accusations of a furore across a wide section of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Green backbenchers, backed up by Sinn Féin and Solidarity TDs, that vulture funds are being given control of Ireland's forestry via the back door. So, as I say, the only way to scupper that deal is to really, I suppose, change the terms under which money can be granted to investors. They should do it at this stage. No one wants it, seemingly, except this investment company in Quilcha. But we'll see if that U-turn does indeed happen. The Irish Daily Star this morning: fears are growing that there will be no more electricity credits until next winter, despite the likelihood of a cold snap in February and March. Yesterday, Eamon Ryan said that the government will decide in the next few weeks whether or not to extend electricity credits into next winter. The Environment Minister told This Week that the COVID-19 supports were wound down over time and the issue would require something similar. He said lowering the credits is less likely, and that if they were to be continued, they would likely be continued as they are. If we were to continue them, I think they'd probably continue as they have been used. He says an announcement will be made on that in the next wee while. We shall see. On to the Irish Daily Mirror this morning, and Sinn Féin is by far the most popular political party in the country, while backing for Fine Gael has dropped in the wake of Pascal Donoghue's election expenses controversy. And also, I wonder, I presume the paper, I don't presume, the paper's presuming that's why. The survey also revealed the public are increasingly unhappy with the government's handling of the refugee and migration situation. The Red Sea Business Post poll put Sinn Féin at 33%, up 2%, and Fine Gael at 21%, down 2 percentage points compared to a similar poll taken before Christmas. And in relation to the government's handling of the refugee and migrant situation, the question is really quite important, how it was phrased, because it's not to say that the public believe that we should not be taking in migrants or refugees. It's the manner in which it's being done, where they're being housed and how they're being housed. But anyway, during this period, Public Expenditure Minister Pascal Donoghue was embroiled in a controversy over his electoral expenses. Do people, though, who support a particular political party, would they change any political party for that matter? Would they change their views like that over one controversy? I'm not really quite sure they would. But anyway, the Irish Sun, publicans have blasted Diageo for forcing them to hike the price of a pint of Guinness. Hard-pressed punters will pay up to 50 cent more from tomorrow after the brewers increased the cost of kegs. We found just 2 Dublin City bars that'll charge less than €6. The Halfpenny Bridge Inns, Michael Ryan told us, without tourists, we'd be in huge trouble. So only 2 bars in Dublin now, according to this paper, will be charging less than €6 for a pint of Guinness. Can you imagine? All right, it's expensive old stuff, isn't it? That's an expensive round.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the 2022 C-Store National Off-Licence of the Year.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
At O'Malley Scanlon Insurance Brokers, they have an exciting new opportunity for ambitious individuals looking for a career in insurance with the following vacancies in their Ballybuffet and Dunlow offices. A commercial client accounts officer, experience required. A personal clients accounts officer, also experience required. A general office person with a view to being trained in insurance practices. Also, a company's accounts reconciler. Please forward your CV to Carmel at o'malleyscanlon.com.
Greener choices are the key to a sustainable future. That's why Energia is leading the way in renewable energy technologies like wind, solar, and battery storage. Because the choices we all make today will change how we live tomorrow.
OK, you're very welcome back. Now we welcome onto the programme Francis McGrory, Club Secretary at Buncrana Golf Club. Thanks for joining us, Francis. Sorry to be speaking to you under these circumstances. What happened at the club?
Just at the weekend there, probably Friday evening there. The greens were damaged by a couple of boys in a scooter.
How extensive is the damage, Francis?
It's hard to measure, because the damage to the green, at this time of year, it'll take months for it to recover. So you could be down in competition revenue, green fee revenue, not alone talking about getting the labour to repair it.
So they went onto the course in the scooter and did they up and down the fairways and focused on the greens, or?
They focused on one green in particular. We have them on camera coming on there. There's 2 young boys on the one scooter. They just head straight for the 8th green, which is a kind of an elevated green up in a height.
Mm-hmm.
So they rallied about that green, just up and down it and skidding and sliding and tearing up a surface that's been there for 80 or 100 years of grass. Just ruthless vandalism. Why would they do it? I don't know.
And it was prolonged, wasn't it? 14 minutes odd they were messing about at that green.
We haven't come on there. They came on about 5:31 on Friday evening, and they were there for about 12, 13 minutes before they left again.
And I mean, for people who don't play golf or don't understand it, the green is where it's at, really, isn't it, in terms of the finesse of the game? You have one down. You don't have a ton of space there for a temporary green either, I don't think. I mean, it has really serious consequences.
It has consequences. The greens the greens are the course. You're judged on the quality of greens you have, and we pride ourselves that we have some of the best greens in Ireland, if not Donegal. It's one of our selling marks that our greens are superior. And for this to happen, and in this particular area, we'll just have to play around it, because we wouldn't have an area for a temporary green.
Yeah. Has the greenskeeper had a look at it? How much work is it going to take to get this back into a playable state?
Well, we'll probably get it fixed up temporary, but it'll not be the quality that the members are used to playing on. It'll interfere with your putts and all, and it's the time of year, there's no growth, so setting grass seed at this time of the year is going to be a waste of time, so we'll just have to patch it up temporarily. I was up with the greenkeeper there this morning. He's going to have a look at it now first thing and start doing some repairs to it, like to get it into some plain state, but it'll just be not the quality that we're used to, and realistically you're probably looking at maybe 2-3 months before we're able to get anywhere back to standard, like.
Yeah. The CCTV footage at this point, you're saying it's good footage, it'll be released, you want the people responsible to come forward, is that it?
Yeah, we're giving them a chance there to come forward, like, with a fair idea who the two boys are, like the two of them's on the one scooter. So we have a fair idea. We're just giving themselves and their parents. Parents all know who have scooters. They know they should know where their children are and what they're doing, like. So they have a chance here to come forward and explain themselves. Maybe give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't know no better. They might know what golf is like, you know.
They might have thought it just appeared to be like one of those skateboarding parks. I mean, you know, with the way as you say, it's an elevated green up it and down it. You're saying it's possible you want them to reach out. It's possible maybe they didn't realise that this the damage they were doing, not just to this green, it does it to the whole course effectively.
That's right. We're only a 9-hole course, like, so for us to lose a green like that there is going to have a severe impact on us, like. And I would like to think that they didn't actually know what they were doing. I would hate to think it was done on purpose, you know. So part of me is hoping that they didn't realise the consequences of their actions. Like, even though like they've entered somebody else's property, they should know that right from wrong. They shouldn't be doing that, like. But I would like to think they didn't actually intend to do the damage that they done, like.
Yeah. Okay. Electric scooter, is it?
I was electric scooter. Two of them, a small fellow in the front and a taller fellow behind him, just came in the gate, just headed straight to the green, and done whatever they done, up and down, rallying on a electric scooter. These electric scooters are getting out of hand, like, because they came in there, it was dark, they had no lights or nothing, like, so they're actually out in the streets all hours of the evening, like, with these electric scooters. Somebody's going to get knocked down or hit, like, because there's no lights in them. Like, there's times where myself and my wife would go for a walk, like, and you can see these young boys coming shooting across roads and these scooters with no lights in them, like. Yeah. There's going to be a serious accident apart from the vandalism we've encountered, like.
Yeah, I think you as an individual and as a club are being very fair on this one as well, to be honest with you, and that recognising that maybe they didn't realise the consequences of their actions.
Well, we are just a community golf club. Like, we're not like these large golf clubs who've plenty of money. They do carry out repair work. Like, we just live from week to week. We keep the membership fees at a low rate to encourage all the local community to play golf. Like, so we pride ourselves in the community aspect. So we won't think the worst of somebody until we're aware of what did take place, like, you know.
Right, okay. Well, you're saying, listen, come forward, resolve the situation amicably. The CCTV footage is there. If it was released, I think the people in the local community would very quickly identified, and the Gardaí that would become involved. You're giving them a window of opportunity to come forward.
Yeah, we're giving them one though. If we don't hear nothing by the end of the day, like, we'll just report the whole incident to the Garda, like, and I can move on from there, like.
I don't think you can be any fairer than that, Francis. And you've a very talented person there looking after the greens too. Hopefully, they're able to work their magic and get it, back to a playable situation sooner rather than later. Thank you.
No, thanks for your time, and thanks for highlighting this. It was great. Thank you.
No, it's important, right. Okay, and I think you've been really, really fair. That's an important point to make. British airline Flybe has ceased trading and all scheduled flights have been cancelled. The UK Civil Aviation Authority made the announcement and urged those with booked Flybe flights not to travel to airports. CAA Consumer Director Paul Smith said it's always sad to see an airline enter administration, and we know that Flybe's decisions to stop trading will be distressing for all of its employees and customers. Breach has been affected by this. Breach, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm all right, Breach. What had you planned, and what plans were scuppered?
Well, I am going to East Midlands on the 25th of February. It was for an RSM training event. So I had booked last Tuesday, didn't book to say last Tuesday evening, and then I woke up on Saturday morning and someone was telling me the whole thing was kaboom, gone. And my flights, they weren't cheap, Greg, to be honest. They were €270 for a return flight to Belfast.
Yeah.
So I just was a bit, I suppose, peeved, disappointed, whatever. You know, you can't even plan ahead now at all. It's crazy.
Yeah, and no word on refunds yet. I'd imagine if they've gone kaboom, as you say, they probably don't have the resources to pay. We'll try and find some of that information out, though. You're maybe looking for a payback into your card. That's one option. I don't know how successful that might be and how quickly that might happen.
You know what? I'm kind of annoyed at the fact that obviously they took my money last Tuesday and they knew they were going to go kaboom, as I said, but could they not just reschedule flights? I don't mind how I get, as long as I get, you know, or get my money back.
Yeah.
I do still want to travel, obviously. You know, you don't book something and I won. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping for. I've been on to the bank, but I haven't had any comeback there yet because I paid through my debit card. So hopefully I can get it back. I have to see them today.
Yeah, and as you say, it's a significant amount of money, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, it's €300 gone just if I don't get refunded.
I don't know if travel insurance, and we'll find out. Owen Corries, maybe Owen can hear me now. Owen, are you there?
I am indeed listening to that story.
Yeah.
It's another very, very sad story from the aviation, Greg.
I was just going to make a point, but you're there and you can answer straight away. It's probably not the case, the point in Breach's case, but if you had travel insurance, does travel insurance cover an airline collapse?
Oddly enough, travel insurance tends not to cover an airline collapse because in the old days, the airlines didn't collapse because they were all government funded. Now, every travel insurance varies from policy to policy. What we've had in about 10 years, for about €90 or €100, you'll get an annual policy. Nobody looks at it. It comes with about 20 minutes of reading with all your clauses. But most of those, in my experience, don't cover an airline collapse. Now, they have, you can buy an extra onto a lot of them. That for about €6 to cover an airline collapse. But that's not really any good because nobody only looks at it, Greg, until the airline has collapsed and they say, exactly, oh yeah, you managed to get out of this, guys. There is another way back for Breed, and she will get her money back. The two ways back are the credit card charge. Get your charge back, let the credit card company know and get it back quickly. And if that doesn't work, the equivalent of the Aviation Commissioner in England is the CAA, and they will refund everybody. There is a sort of a cover fund, €1 per every flight that goes into a central pot, and it covers collapses like this. The real problem, and Bridges just alluded to it there, is you really don't want the hassle. You don't want to be looking to another airline to pay sometimes a higher price than was the original and going through all that rigmarole. You just want to be told, here's your new flight time. That's not an option, unfortunately. What happened with Flybe is, and they took bookings right up till midnight on Friday, and at 3 a.m. they started sending out emails saying, sorry.
Well, before we get to that story, because I want to let Breach go, how does one apply for a refund through the CAA?
Website, very clear cut, very straightforward. Be very, very careful. When you Google and you say flight refunds, Flybe collapse, you're going to get all of these sites popping up saying, oh, we'll get your money back for you. And they all charge you. It's free. Go straight to the caa.co.uk site and go straight to them. One of the problems with the internet is that Google, if you pay Google money, you'll land top of the page, and there's no shortage of chancers and white.
And we've seen this before when people are applying for visas for America and such. So CAA.co.uk, Breach.
For free, we'll charge you. It's shocking stuff. Yeah.
All right, great stuff, Breach. I'll let you go. Busy house, I would say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
I'll let you know how I get on.
Please do, Breach. God bless you. All right, and good luck with the
Bye.
training, of course. Right, okay. Sorry about that, Owen, dipping coming in and out. So you were about to tell us how this came to pass then, because Flybe were taking bookings right up to the last. How could they have? What is the tipping point? There must be a real cliff edge with some of these airlines then.
Usually it's a payment that comes in. They have a payment to make. They failed to make it. Flybe didn't own very many of their aircraft. 6 of them were leased out of a company in Shannon Airport and 1 out in Dublin, and they operated a series of Dash 4s. So what they were doing behind the scenes of Friday, this only emerged afterwards, was scrambling for finance. They were running out of cash. They knew they wouldn't be able to continue operating on Saturday. They didn't raise the money that they needed. And the tragedy here is that Flybe failed before. They failed in March 2020. US hedge funds bought the brand for a small amount of money, big to you and me, but a small in aviation.
They bought the name, really, did they?
They bought the name and all the problems for about £2 million sterling. And they then did something very fascinating and reckless, in my opinion, in that they started operating routes which were competing with other airlines, and they put an awful lot of connectivity into linking regional airports into Heathrow. Heathrow is a horribly expensive place to fly in and out of. Your passenger charges before you even start charging the fare are £30 sterling. So they were operating expensive aircraft on expensive routes in competition with other airlines, and it didn't seem to be a model that made a hell of a lot of sense. They then started chopping and changing at short notice. So it was a series of almost crisis management. And you would have thought, if you're coming into a new company, whatever about operating an airline that's run into trouble, if you're buying an airline, you would have worked out a pretty strong strategy to get through it. Now, they also bought in during COVID. They knew the problems of COVID, but nobody expected COVID to disrupt things for so long. And that is another factor that brought them down. But you have to ask yourself, when you go into the aviation game and you haven't got it worked out, it's a very competitive business, and an aviation failure is big news because of the amount of disruption it causes and the havoc it causes for customers. It also causes havoc for Belfast City Airport, who've lost 1/3 of their business in one fell swoop.
Yeah, it's a big hit. So all customers that were due to fly with them, caa.co.uk, that's the place to go and to seek a refund there. I mean, when you have the options, your credit or debit card provider, or whether or not you have this perhaps bells and whistles insurance that might cover you, or the CAA refund, how do you choose which is the best offer there?
First stop is credit card, Greg.
Okay.
If the credit card gets back to you straight away, the others are a bit longer and a bit messier. The credit card will be looking to the CAA for you to get their money back. But if it's a recent enough purchase, you can generally catch it on your credit card.
Right, okay. This all comes, it's the flip side of the aviation industry. Ryanair, they've posted its largest after-tax profits for the October to December quarter and said bookings for Easter and summer flights in recent weeks were very, very robust. I mean, they're trying to get in new planes to cover the kind of passenger numbers they'll be shifting around the place. I mean, the strategy they employed, people can be quite critical from Ryanair at times, but they kept their business at a point during the pandemic that gave them amazing springboard when things opened up, and now they're reaping the benefits here.
You got it there, Greg. They kept their pilots licensed. They kept their aircraft certified. They didn't have to store them and then send them back in to go through that expensive process. And they kept their cabin crew employed. Now, that meant when they came back last summer, they roared back into the sky. To give you an example of where they fit in the European Champions League, in 2019, it was pretty much touch and go between the Lufthansa group, not Lufthansa, but the entire group. That includes Swiss, includes Brussels, includes Austrian, which would be the biggest airline in Europe. Ryanair or Lufthansa. There'd be a couple of million between them, but our Ryanair were just that nose ahead. It looks, when the figures, Ryanair have released their figures for last year, 130 million passengers. When Lufthansa and the third place, Turkish Airlines, released their figures, Ryanair could actually be as big as the two of them combined. They're streaking ahead in passenger numbers because of that strategy. The profit is about 1/3 of the winter of pre-COVID, so they haven't got back to making the money back. And remember, you got to remember, they lost about €2 billion. They had €2 billion to lose. Otherwise, they'd be where Flybe is now. But they lost about €2 billion through the pandemic. So they're edging that profit back. Interesting thing from those figures that you quoted this morning, the revenue per passenger is about €60 per passenger, which is a very good
modest,
return.
isn't it? Yeah, I mean,
Their
like
average,
yeah.
Our average fare is about €40 of that. So we're seeing a situation where Ryanair's fares are only about 2/3 of what their revenue per passenger is, because so many people are buying priority boarding and the cup of coffee and the extra bag.
I still don't understand why people do the priority boarding, but anyway, they're clever enough to package it. And the price they've gone up, I think it's around 14%. This increased turnover is primarily because they're getting the bums on the actual seats. When you consider also that, the increasing fuel costs and everything else, I think it really is quite a remarkable business story, but one we've come to expect from that company, I suppose, to some extent. I don't want to sound like I'm praising them too much, but I think, that kind of success in this kind of environment needs to be celebrated, I think.
Well, the fares went up 14%. The average across the industry last year was 40%. So anyone looking at their Lanzarote flights or Christmas will have seen exactly what happened with fares. They're flying up. The fuel situation is also very remarkable. Michael O'Leary, as you know, is not unknown to have his elbow on the fence at race course tracks around, and he's a bit of a gambler, but he gambled very heavily on fuel going up. So he hedged 80% of his fuel for last year at a lower cost, and he's hedged 60% of this year's at whatever price he could buy. When you do that, you're gambling that the price will go up, not down. As everyone knows listening, price spiked in fuel the first 6 months immediately after the war broke out this time last year, and Ryanair ended up paying an awful lot less than the likes of Flybe, who couldn't hedge because they were a new airline and didn't have the buying power that they did.
Yeah. And finally, Ryanair offering hope to some of the Flybe staff. I think they've around about 250 staff pilots. Obviously, they'll have no issue there in getting work if they want it.
Belfast was their biggest base. It's like 150, nearly 200 people in Belfast. It's a shocking employment story as well. Let's
right. So it's not quite as it might require a relocation for Flybe staff to avail of any Ryanair offers then.
Well, Ryanair have put in rescue flights for the passengers, and they're having a recruitment day, I think, tomorrow for Flybe staff.
But Ryanair do fly out of Belfast. I get confused here because there was some squabble over airports, but Ryanair do fly out of one particular Belfast airport, isn't it? Belfast City Airport, isn't it?
It's Belfast International. Aer Lingus fly out of Belfast City. But you're right, okay.
I was half right somewhere or other. That's why I've sat nav, Owen. You know what I mean? Just to point me, yeah.
Greg, you're not the only one who needs it, because Ryanair went into Belfast International, pulled out, big row. Michael O'Leary famously called it Lough Neagh International Airport. He heaped abuse and vitriol on top of Belfast International. Then, after about a year and a half, he'd a row at Belfast City, went back to Belfast International. But he's flying out of Belfast International. Aer Lingus are flying out of Belfast City. That's how it stands. Yeah. And EasyJet, the only airport in Ireland where Ryanair go head to head with EasyJet is Belfast International. So it will be an interesting summer, and it could lead to very good fares out of Belfast International, because Ryanair don't have the same level of competition in other airports.
And part of the problem with me too is I'm just not in airports as often as I would like. Oh, and listen, it's always
why leave Carrickfinn, Greg? Why would you ever want to leave Carrickfinn?
Yes, but I don't fly. I just sit watching airplanes. Listen, thanks very much, Owen. That's Owen Corrie there, editor of the Air and Travel magazine. Okay, back with more soon.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 912-9562 and bring care home.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold this winter and ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Tune in this Tuesday to the Community Garda information slot, on air after 10 a.m. on the 9 till Noon Show in association with Sheridan Security Systems. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
It's where you live. It's where you relax. It's where you make memories. Treat your home to a visit to Cooney's Home Interiors. We have everything in store to help recreate your home. Choose from our extensive range of suites, tables, beds, mattresses and home furnishings for every room. Cooney's Home Interiors Letterkenny. Style and perfection at incredible value.
Our McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware. With stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre, or online at ourmccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice, whatever the occasion. Our McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 912-9562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
We at Highland Radio love Irish music, and we want to show our support. Throughout Irish Music Month this March, in partnership with Hot Press Magazine, we're asking you to support the Irish musicians, artists and bands who make every party, every drive home and every day magic. That's right. To celebrate Irish Music Month on Highland Radio, we're asking you to support Irish artists and musicians by buying Irish albums, Irish tickets, Irish t-shirts and Irish music merch. Irish musicians have shown that they are right up there with the best in the world, so let's support them by buying Irish. Proudly supported by Highland Radio, Hot Press, IBI and the BAI Sound and Vision Fund.
I've lost my car keys. Lost my car once in a multi-story. Lost my patience. My hair? Lost that a while back. But this week, I found things I thought had gone forever. The crackle of needle on vinyl. Leaves crunching. I found them all at Specsavers. I got free hearing aids with PRSI. And now those sounds are back. So's my joie de vivre. Still can't find those keys, though.
Book a free hearing test today. Terms and conditions apply. See our website for details.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Scattered showers this morning with bright or sunny spells developing. Cloud will build from the west as usual through the late morning and early afternoon with outbreaks of light rain and drizzle following. Temperatures 7 to 9 degrees. Now, you may have heard on the news, 8.95 million is to be invested in 8 projects in Killybegs. The funding has been announced today by Minister Charlie McConalogue under the Fishery, Harbour and Coastal Infrastructure Development Programme. Independent Deputy Thomas Pringle in Killybegs, of course, joins us now. Good morning, Thomas.
Morning, Greg. How are you?
Good. Good news?
Yeah, well, I mean, initially you would think it was good news, and I would love to be on here today saying that it's fantastic news. It's great to see this money being invested. But I have serious questions about it, because if you go back to 2017, 6.2 million was announced for Killybegs Smooth Point project, and then in 2021, 5.5 million was announced for it, and then in July last year we had the 10.5 million project, and now we have another project again. So I would wonder what's going on here. I mean, it seems to me that this has been announced, and the project is trundling along slowly but surely. And I think really what should be announced is probably that this 900,000 has been allocated to it this year out of an overall budget of 10.5 million. But that doesn't sound as good when you put it on the radio.
Right. So you're saying at least part of this 8.95 million has, in fact, you seem to be saying the majority of it has already been announced over previous years.
over a number of years, a long number of years, going back to 2017. That I have found that that's just on a quick Google search. I'm sure if you looked a bit longer and a bit closer, you would find it again as well. And in fact, I had a press release out in July last year questioning that this has been announced again at that time. And actually, the fund has decreased from July to this year. So there must be budgetary savings in relation to that as well.
Well, maybe the Green Party influence is rubbing off with the recycling.
Maybe, I don't know, or maybe, I don't know, Pinocchio's rubbing off on.
But be that as it may, though, the work is ongoing nonetheless, though, and the money is being there to allow it to continue. So that has to be welcome. I think there's always a bit of politics played, isn't there?
Well, I mean, surely that could have been announced in 2017. Or 2018 or 2019 or 2020 or 2021, and it was announced in July last year in 2022. So why is it announced again? And maybe we should announce it next month as well. That would make it very positive then, that everybody would
make a bank holiday out of it, maybe every year.
Well, exactly. That would be a good start. Although the business people mightn't be too happy with that, but
no, of course not.
I mean, a little bit flippant, Greg, I suppose, but, the sad thing about it is that I would love to be able to be on here and saying that this is new money and this is something that's badly wanted, but this is something that's ongoing, And, like the small craft harbour, there's funding allocated for that, which is also announced in 2021, and it's actually under construction at the moment, and it's up to the roof, so what's the point?
Well, we'll inquire just as to how much of this is new investment and how much of it maybe has already been spent, because I think it's important clarification. But I mean, it's good to hear the announcements. It's good to hear work going on. But at the same time, if this is old money being re-announced, I don't think that's very good for people either, because we want to know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and actually, Greg, if it's not old money and if it's new money, then you'll have to wonder how
where's the money going?
It's costing 6.2, 5.11, 12 million, 10.5 is 22 million, and another 9 million. So the peer extension is costing 32 million so far.
Yeah,
you have to raise questions like how it's costing that much.
Yeah, so it's important to get clarification on that. Before I let you go, maybe you didn't get the papers yesterday. Have you been tracking this story over the government's handling of the illegal care home fees? I think it's going to, well, if it doesn't, it possibly should dominate conversation in the Dáil over the coming days. If this is as it appears, I think it's one of the biggest health stories to come out in an incredibly long time.
It's an absolute scandal. I haven't read the full detail of it yet, but I mean, it's shocking what you actually see in relation to it. But it doesn't surprise me. And that's sad to say that, but that's the way that government proceeds and the government goes on. That's what's wrong with what we have in government in this country. As basically, whether it's Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, they just trundle on and do the same things, and we need to change that. And ultimately, it's only the people that can change that. We'll have a ringing and lashing of teeth and up there, and they'll be apologising and stuff like that. But this goes on, and we know it'll go on. And I think that the Irish people deserve far better than that.
Okay, as I say, much more will come out in that story, I'm sure, in the media and in the Dáil over the coming days. Thank you very much for your time, Independent Deputy Thomas Pringle. And as I say, maybe I was being a little bit facetious there in relation to the announcements, but we shall find out, because this is either it's an incredibly expensive project or there is old money being announced again. I want to give a mention to something that's really caught with you out there. It's our Community Hero competition that's running at the moment in association with iMotors. It's a collaboration between Highland Radio and iMotors. And what we are offering here is it's a 231 Nissan Qashqai for 12 months. The Community Hero Award will honour a neighbour, family, friend, colleague or community supporter who has made an extraordinary contribution within the community. So what we're asking you to do as a individual or as an organisation, and I think and we were saying this during the launch at the end of last week, I think all of us can almost immediately think of someone to say, you know what, if they had a brand new car under them for 12 months, it'd be a great boost to them. People have to be over 18, of course, and hold a full driving licence and would be responsible for the tax and insurance and fuel in the vehicle, but they would have access to an incredibly reliable, of course, 231 Nissan Qashqai for 12 months. So I'll give you some suggestions, but you will know yourself who would qualify for this type of a prize. We want someone who's going beyond the call of duty, that helps the community, that's caring in the community, volunteers in the community, works with young people, old people, disadvantaged people, and it costs nothing to nominate them. So tell us briefly why you believe a person that you know deserves to have access to this brand new vehicle for 12 months. And it's simple. You send in your nominations via email to comments@highlandradio.com. Email comments@highlandradio.com. But we recognise that emailing is not for everyone. So feel free to write down a few lines, stick it in an envelope and post it, or drop it in to Highland Radio, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Now, the closing date for entries is the 22nd of February. We want to work quickly on this, of course, to give them the benefit of the car all year and for the start of next year. The closing date for entries is the 22nd of February. The winner will be announced on this programme, the 9 till noon show, on the 24th of February. So nominate your community hero, and they can have access for a year to a brand new 231 Nissan Qashqai for 12 months. It's a beautiful car, and I think we've already had a really good interest in that, which is great. And also, there's another thing I want to mention here, just while I have a tiny little bit of space, because the entries close on this tomorrow. Right, so here at Highland Radio, we love and support Irish music, and as part of Irish Music Month on independent radio right across the country, we are inviting you to take part, because we're taking part really as well, in our local hero talent search. So if you're a band or in a band, or not in a band, whatever, individuals, and you're releasing your own original music, and it could be any genre at all. You don't need me to go through the genres, you know all about that. We want you to get involved in this competition, because you'll be representing us in the county as well, I suppose you could put it like that. Also, you'll be on this show performing live, which we're really looking forward to. All the shortlisted entries will be on this show. And if you're successful, then you'll play at a national broadcasting event and win a prize pot of €10,000. So we're looking for 4 acts to feature on air on this show, and one of those acts then will go on to represent Highland Radio and the county and the region on a nationally broadcast gig. If you're one of the 4 Highland Radio shortlisted finalists, you'll receive €875, €650 for a band and $225 for the crew. Irish Music Month's promoting Irish artists from every genre from every county in Ireland. So don't miss out on your chance. Enter now. Check out our website and social media for more information. You need to do it today, though. So if mums, dads, aunts and uncles, you've got a talented band or group or individual in your family, doesn't matter what kind of music they produce, please get them to send in an MP3 to music@highlandradio.com. We bio about the band or individual and an MP3 of the song. And closing date for entries is tomorrow. So close of business tomorrow, should we put it? So if you know someone that could qualify for that, please get them to enter if they're not listening themselves. And I know from this show, and this show is just one of the many shows that supports Irish music, but particularly with them coming in live, we have just such an amazing talent of all ages as well. Though I think when people talk about Irish music, there's this focus on new. Well, we had an artist in here recently from Derry who is producing music and has started producing music really quite recently, and they're no spring chicken. I think that's not a wrong way of putting it. So don't think that, I'm not young enough to enter. I really don't want anyone to be discouraged by age. Not that it's laid out like that, but anyway. Right, okay. Today marks the 51st anniversary of Bloody Sunday, when British soldiers shot 26 unarmed civilians. 14 people died following a protest in the Bogside area of Derry on what is regarded as one of the darkest days of the Troubles. Michael McKinney's brother, William, was killed on Bloody Sunday. Michael, I presume it's a difficult time of the year every year, and it's not just this one day or the days leading up to it. There's other Christmas time, birthdays, missed opportunities to have your brother at certain events. It must be always ongoing, Michael.
Oh, absolutely, and it always has been. That loss is still there. I'm sure everyone in the family surely feel like that.
We've always missed them.
The Bloody Sunday families now have been nominated to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. SDLP leader Colm Eastwood said he put them forward to honour the families and hope to pressure the British government on its planned approach to legacies. He says it's a fitting tribute for the families' long fight for truth and justice. And I suppose we all watch on in admiration, Michael, with what you're doing, what you're trying to do, what you have achieved, what you're hoping to achieve. But I suppose as a family and as a collection of families, really, you know, maybe you don't always realise that we're so focused on what you guys are doing and follow it so closely.
Well, you're right. When we started the campaign in '92, we were really fixed on what we wanted to achieve. We weren't exactly sure where we were going, but there was a determination there among us that we were never just going to give up. And look at what we've done. You know, we got the first time ever. I think we made legal history in getting this. It was the first time ever an inquiry, a second inquiry was ever granted on the any event. But when you're involved in something like this, you're so focused on where you want to go and what you want to try and get done, because you know what's right. What you're doing is right. You really don't realise that how much attention is on you, you know, from the public.
Yeah.
And thankfully, you know, the dignity of the families have been really something else.
Mm.
You know, they've really kept them to. They've kept their heads up and with dignity. I think what we've achieved, it has really been something.
I think everyone listening would agree, Michael. Is this all-consuming for you, Michael, or do you have to sort of have some of your time for the campaigning and the search for justice, and then you know, some of the time where you can try and just sort of maybe function a little bit outside of this, or maybe you don't want to? How do you strike a balance there for yourself, Michael?
Well, during the inquiry, things were a lot more intense. Things have eased off a bit now, although we have been in court as one of the 5 families for what happened in Mafada Park just last week and this week and probably a week after. And the legal process from the prosecution thing I started, that's been ongoing now this last number of years. And, you know, it's always there. It's gone on and on. And he asked me, was it consuming? It was consuming at one stage, not as much at the minute, but it's still there. Okay. You know, you're talking about the legal process, you're talking about a massive group of families, you know, sometimes, and there are different views, and it's always there.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Michael. I was just always interested in that because it's such a well-organised campaign. Okay, Michael, listen, thanks for your time, and my condolences to you again. This is not just the anniversary of Bloody Sunday. It's a personal thing to you, even though that is, but I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Sure I do, yeah.
You lost your brother. Okay, Michael, thank you very much indeed. Michael McKinney, whose brother William was murdered there on Bloody Sunday. All right, we'll be back with more after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till Noon Show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Wet n Wild is celebrating 20 years in business with a massive 20% off absolutely every product in store in February. Choose any top outdoor brand product in store and we will deduct 20% of all prices at the till. Buy premium quality outdoor clothing, footwear and equipment today and save 20%.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Get up to 50% off all tiles. Wood flooring, bathware, cladding, everything's reduced. Tiles from only $8.99 per square yard and wood flooring from only $11.99 per square yard. Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price January sale extended until Bank Holiday Monday.
Dogs, cats, rabbits, birds and fish. Some of the popular home pets that need care and attention every day. At Gary's Pet World, our fully trained staff are here to help you and your pets. We offer great advice and value on all foods, accessories, grooming and care products with incredible offers on all leading brands. Shop in store at Gary's Pet World, Letterkenny Retail Park, open 7 days per week, or browse and buy 24/7 at petworld.ie.
Hello, thanks for waiting. Could you hold the line?
Yeah, no problem.
Now, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm looking to make some updates to my insurance policy.
Have you tried our online portal?
I thought it would be easier to call.
Yeah. No. You're going to have to log on to amend your policy. Thanks for calling.
No, wait. I don't know my password.
Get the feeling that your insurer doesn't want to talk to you? At Local Insurance, we understand your needs. Call today for a bespoke quote or find us online at localinsurance.ie. Local Insurance, we'll get you sorted. The Local Insurance Network, DAC Trading's Local Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Local Insurance is a tied insurance intermediary of Acorn Brokerage Limited. Acorn Brokerage Limited, trading as Acorn Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The Housing Minister says he expects the enhanced effective block scheme regulations to be published in the coming weeks. Minister Darragh O'Brien has confirmed that affected homeowners are to be consulted this week on the draft regulations. He says that he intends to include a provision in the scheme for costs for certified works already incurred, while the SCSI is carrying out a review of costings also. Minister O'Brien says people engaging with the current scheme will benefit from the enhanced regulations.
We had over 150 applications in Donegal processed and through the stages actually since December, and we've provided assistance there as well to make sure that people's applications are actually processed and homes now are being remediated, but we want to see that step up significantly. Regulations are coming down the track very, very shortly. As I said, I expect by the end of February. But there won't be any delay in accessing, because people who access the old scheme and apply will get the uplift of the enhanced scheme.
Lifford Greyhound Stadium is to reopen in April. In a notice issued, it's been confirmed that racing will return on Sunday, April the 2nd. A race has not been held in Lifford since 2019 after the stadium closed its doors due to what it said was an ongoing lack of support from the Irish Greyhound Board. It was then expected to reopen in March of last year. Councillor Jerry Crawford has been welcoming the latest announcement.
There's always been greyhounds in Lifford up until recently. It's always brought people there. There's always been a focus for the people who have that interest and follow it. And there was an awful void for those people when it was absent. And I'm sure that they, above all, will be delighted to see it back again. But it is a welcome boost to the economy of the town, and just bringing a great facility back into life again.
Significant damage has been caused to Buncrana Golf Club after the green was vandalised during what has been described as a 14-minute period of pure havoc on Friday evening. CCTV footage shows two young men on an electric scooter entering the grounds shortly after 5:30 and damaging an area around the 8th green. Francis McGrory, secretary of Buncrana Golf Club, says it will take 2 to 3 months for the damage to be fully repaired. He's warned that those responsible have until the end of the day to come forward.
We have a fair idea who the two boys are, like the two of them's on the one scooter. So we have a fair idea. We're just giving themselves and their parents. Parents all know who have scooters. They know whether they should know where their children are and what they're doing. Like, so they have a chance here to come forward. And if we don't hear nothing by the end of the day, like, we'll just report the whole incident to the Garda. Like.
The Taoiseach and Health Minister must make statements on what they knew of an alleged strategy to deny families access to refunds of illegal nursing home charges. Sinn Féin is making the call after revelations in the Mail on Sunday that successive governments allegedly had a secret plan to block refunds. It's alleged the state faced a €12 billion liability in compensation for families who were wrongly charged for the care over 30 years ago. The party spokesperson on health, David Cullinan, says his claimed senior ministers were aware.
What's been alleged is that a number of ministers would have known, and obviously very senior people in the department and at the highest level of government, including the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar. That's what's been alleged. That's why this is so serious. And in any situation, if the state was to involve in any covert plan to deprive people or to deny people what are just entitlements and then force people through the courts, if that is what happened and that's what's been alleged in this article, then that's profoundly serious.
With a nice scattered showers this morning with bright or sunny spells developing. Highest temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The obituary notices Monday morning, January 30th. The death has occurred at 24 Abbey Village, Kilmacrennan, of Michael Doherty, Jack, formerly of Maherard, Ballyliffin, Clonmany. His remains will be reposing at his sister Anne and brother-in-law Joseph's residence, 6 Thornhill Park, Derry, from 3:30 p.m. this afternoon. Funeral from there travelling via Quigley's Point on Wednesday morning at 10:45 a.m, going to St Mary's Church, Clonmany for Requiem Mass at 12 noon, with interment immediately afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only please, donations if desired to St Colmkill Village, Clay, Clonmany, care of any family member or McFeely Funeral Directors. Family time please from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. Michael's funeral mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of Robinson Crawford, Main Street, Ballintrae. His remains will repose at his late residence today from 2 p.m. till 9 p.m. Removal from there tomorrow for 2 p.m. funeral service in St John's Church, Rossnowla, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. House private please on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the Northwest Hospice, care of any family member or Jackie Karen Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Sarah McFadden, Killochcarron, Creasla, County Donegal. Her remains will be reposing at her late residence from 11 a.m. this morning. Removal from her home tomorrow evening to arrive at St Michael's Church, Creasla, at 6 p.m. to repose overnight. Funeral Mass in St Michael's Church on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Burial afterwards in Doe Cemetery. Mass can be viewed on mcmmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Eddie George Sweeney, Golan, Milford. Remains reposing at his home from 6 p.m. this evening. Funeral Mass on Wednesday at 12 noon at St Bridget's Church, Golan. Burial afterwards in Milford Cemetery. Rosary tonight and tomorrow at 9 p.m. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the renal unit, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of Patrick Sweeney Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Margaret Turish of Ballybose, Creasla, County Donegal. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral Mass in St Michael's Church, Creasla, tomorrow at 12 noon. Burial afterwards in Doe Cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family time please from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu of desired to Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital, care of family member or James Harkin Funeral Director. The death has occurred of Dermot Donoghue, 73 Ballymacoolwood, Letterkenny. Dermot's remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m. in St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, followed by cremation in Lakelands Crematorium, County Cavan at 3:30 p.m. House private from 10 p.m. to 12 noon and on the morning of the funeral. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place of John Daly, Northland Crescent, Derry. John's remains are reposing at his son's Michael's residence, 4 Moyle View, Newton Cunningham. Funeral Mass in St Eugene's Cathedral, Derry, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m, followed by burial in the city cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Pat McGee, Ballintemple, Fulcara, reposing at his late residence with Rosary at 8 p.m. House private until 12 p.m. and also on the morning of the funeral. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. in St Fenan's Church, Fulcara, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The Funeral Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv or on the Sweeney Funeral Director's Facebook page. The death has occurred of Bobby Byrne, 54, Ballymungan Road, Killeter, Castlederg, reposing at the family home today from 12 noon to 10 p.m. Funeral from the family home tomorrow morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m. in St Patrick's Church, Ahyarn. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. Family flowers only please. The death has taken place of Frances Deborah Dora McDade, formerly of Killyveary, County Donegal. Family and friends are welcome to pay their respects at W.J. O'Brien and Sons Funeral Home, 110 Cluny Road, Ellington, County Derry, this evening from 7 to 9 p.m. Dora's funeral service will take place there tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. Cremation will take place on Wednesday afternoon in Lakelands Crematory in Cavan at 1 p.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers, if wished, to the Alzheimer's Society. The death has occurred of Mick Dunleavy, 18 Wolftone Place, Glencarra, Letterkenny. Funeral from his late residence this afternoon for 1 p.m. Requiem Mass in St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, with burial afterwards in Conwell Cemetery. House private to family only, please, before the funeral today. The death has taken place of Bridget Boyle, nee Boner, Derry Drill, Dunlow, Donegal and formerly of New York. Funeral Mass in St Patrick's Church, Meena Cross, this morning at 11 o'clock, followed by cremation at Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan. The death has taken place of Neil Doran, 23 Coalhill Park, Newton Cunningham, formerly of Vey Manor Cunningham. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there this morning at 10:30 a.m. for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass in All Saints Church, Newton Cunningham, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu of desired to Newton Cunningham Community First Responders, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, Funeral Director. House private, please, before the funeral today. The death has occurred of Kathleen Maloney, formerly 6 Castle Park, Buncrana. Kathleen's remains are reposing at her brother Martin and Elizabeth's home at 1 Riverside, Cockhill Road, Buncrana. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:20 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Cockhill, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. For more details, including family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
At Irish Life Health, our benefit plan helps you embrace a healthier lifestyle. Get up to €250 back on a mix of benefits, like fitness wearables, dietitians and sports clubs, like your local GAA club. It's health insurance, but not as you know it. Search Irish Life Health.
Irish Life Health Act is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Terms and conditions apply. Call us to see exactly what's covered.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And you're very welcome back to the programme. Good morning if you're just joining us. 12 minutes past 10 on this Monday, the 30th of January 2023. And just a word for you, if you're listening to us on our pod, on the website or on playback overnight, that you can always get involved in the conversation, by the way, if you email comments@highlandradio.com or WhatsApp or text the show on 086 60 25,000. Well, then we can pick up your comments for broadcast on the next morning show. Hi, Greg. In relation to the nursing home charges, is it the fair deal ones that were scammed, or can anyone claim back that had families in nursing homes? I'm learning about this story as we go at the moment. I can't answer that question for certainty. I don't think it's associated necessarily with the fair deal scheme, but we are going to be covering it, so stay tuned. Tell Charlie McConnell, we the people are not that easy food nowadays. Fitting better to get better quotas for the fishermen. Morning, Greg. I just want to warn people heading from Upper Ashlawn down to Lower Ashlawn that there is a tree felling going on in Lower Ashlawn and you won't get through. Also, there's no warning signs to let drivers know what's ahead. Okay. In the last week, the Shaw Green and other green areas in and around Buncrana have been vandalised too. Right, okay, that's regrettable. That's off the back of an appeal from Buncrana Golf Club, a beautiful golf club actually, and beautiful, really well maintained, that someone went up there, 2 guys on an electric scooter, and destroyed the 8th green, a kind of a showcase green, I think it is in any case, and it's destroyed now, and it takes ages to get it back up to its original condition. The golf club has said, look, we know who you are, probably we don't want to necessarily have to get the Gardaí involved, contact us before the end of today, and they won't release the footage or contact the Gardaí, or at least they'll keep those options open, I think. I don't want to say that categorically. But now we're getting other people saying that other green areas of Buncrana are being vandalised or have been vandalised too, which is very regrettable. There's a lot of sheep, 30-odd sheep on the road between Brockett and Cloughan. So if you're travelling on that road between Brockett and Cloughan, keep an eye out. 30-odd sheep on the road there. I wonder if this newly uncovered scandal about government covering up their top-secret complicit fraud against families is just the tip of the iceberg, and why the establishment are terrified of Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Greens and Labour being routed at the next general election and replaced by those who've nothing to lose but a better, less corrupt and competent government in Ireland. I think there are those from within that suggest that such a strategy as seems to have been employed here to save having to pay these families the money they're entitled to might be a strategy that's employed in other areas. The concert for Creasla tonight is to be aired on TG Cahir tonight live. Okay, didn't know that. Good to hear. When booking flights, always use your credit card, not your debit card. If you spend the debit card, the money's yours and gone, whereas the credit card company will chase up the payment and you don't have to. I think you have some protection with debit card, but I understand what you're saying. Credit card better. Not everyone has credit cards, though. That's the thing. Hi, Greg. When I booked a holiday and the company went bust overnight, I can't remember the details, but I do remember I got refunded through the Commission of Aviation. Might help that woman. Indeed, we've put her onto the CAA. .co.uk, and we hope that she gets that refund, which is rightfully hers, of course. A quick mention of our Highland Fling in Glasgow, the campaign for me to be in attendance. I'm not going to lie, it's ground to a halt now at this point. I don't think it's going to happen, but that doesn't matter whether I'm there or not, because you can be there. And there's been a great deal of interest in this, by the way, and I've seen sort of similar type things of this that aren't for as long and aren't as far away, and not far off the same kind of price point as well. So it represents good value in this day and age. It's from the 1st to the 4th of May. You're staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow, and the package includes 4-star accommodation in the Crown Plaza I mentioned, breakfast and dinner, which are the two important meals. I don't really eat lunch, to be honest with you. I'd be last down to the breakfast and then I'd have me dinner. I probably wouldn't have lunch, but you can, of course. Breakfast and dinner, entertainment each evening, and, which I think is really important here, luxury coach transport. Travel for me is a lot of the hassle. Here you get on the coach here at Highland and we drop you off at the hotel, then we pick you up and you bring you back. There's loads of time during the day to explore Glasgow. The hotel's quite centrally placed. If you've got friends and family in Glasgow, they can come along at the night. There's walk-up tickets available and join you for the crack as well. On the 1st of May, David James is operating a dance, he and the Ryan Turner Band. On Tuesday the 2nd of May, there's a concert with Declan Nerney and more. Declan Nerney's a real class act, isn't he? As well as David, of course. But Declan's been on the circuit a long time now. Wednesday the 3rd, Robert Mazel to another headliner. And there's loads of other guests as well. Sinead Black's involved and many others as well. It's $5.75 per person and everything's covered there. Buy whatever you fancy doing yourself. If you're interested, €100 will secure your place today. Right, okay, so you can think about how you pay the $4.75 between now and departure date, but €100 books your ticket today. And as I say, tickets for this are going really fast, which is great because apparently it's great fun and people make new friends or reacquaint themselves with old friends that have been on these trips before. And as I say, loads of people already booking. So it will sell out. So if you're thinking about it and you have the 100 to spare today, I would get on it. Call us on 07491 25,000 with any questions. By the way, you don't have to ring and book. If you've got some questions or queries, things that I haven't mentioned, we're able to pass them on to you.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 30th of January. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S1. It's game number 5. The numbers are 81, 75, 65, 55, 10, 66, 68, 86, 51, and finally 38. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Check I'm delighted to say the DL debate returns this week for a 4th series. As ever, we'll have top-class feedback and analysis from all the GA action in the Northwest and across the land. I'll be joined in studio this week by former Donegal star Big Neil Gallagher and former Armagh great Aaron Kiernan. We'll discuss, of course, the big game between Donegal and Kerry, and a look across Division 1 and 2 of the National Football League. I'll also catch up with ATU and ladies football manager Maxie Kern. All this and a bit more just after 7 p.m. news this Monday on Highland Radio and podcasted on highlandradio.com.
The DL debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love in Sarah's kitchen.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 912-9562 and bring care home.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till Noon Show here on Highland Radio, and we're joined in studio now by Jane Buckley, author of Stone's Corner, and we're on volume 3 now. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
Okay, tell us about this series of books, Jane.
Well, I decided in 2017, I suddenly decided one.
Well, that microphone seems to have drifted.
Oh,
from your
sorry.
face.
Have I moved?
You have.
You got me. You got me. I just decided to write a book. I've always been a reader, and New Year's Day, I think it was in 2017, I thought I'd write a book. I told my husband, who laughed, and maybe,
We're always very supportive.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he did. He laughed. But it was just something that I just wanted to do. I'm a bit of a completer finisher, and it turns out the one book has turned into 3.
And they've been really, really well received.
They have,
too,
and
which is you never know, do you?
No.
Because you have this idea, and you don't know. Well, will it resonate? Will
It's been overwhelming. I mean, it really has. I mean, at the beginning, it was a bit difficult because around 2017, 2018, before, I guess, Dairy Girls and some of the films and the TV programmes had been coming out based around the Troubles. I was told quite categorically, no, not interested, nothing to do with the Troubles, we're just not interested in it. So that was one of the reasons I decided to go down the self-publishing route. And I'm not getting any younger, so I thought, well, let's just do it.
Well, you're not terribly old either, so you can't use that as an excuse.
You should have seen me this morning.
But you thought, look, the time is right in my life now for me to do this.
Absolutely.
And you really went to town in it. So we're going to talk about the self-publishing process too, because I think that's really quite important. But have you had any feedback from those that knocked you back? And yet you've proven that, you were going to produce something that covered a particular topic but was done in such a way that people wanted to consume it.
No, I haven't really, because what I've decided to do is, I treat these books as a product. I run my writing as a business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'll ever make much money out of it. Sorry, John, that's my husband who lent me the money. But I think one of the things that I've been quite overwhelmed with is the target audience originally was the younger generation. I wanted to try and tell them through a series of fictional stories based around true events, but thrilling stories. There's lots of plots and twists. They're not easy books to read. They're hard-hitting. But what I've found is the majority of the readers are actually, in their mid-50s, have actually lived through the Troubles and actually have embraced some of the the topics that I've covered, because it actually resonates with them. But again, one of the things that's interesting, a lot of the Republic readers from Dublin and further south, a lot of the feedback, I've seen and from reviews have said they never truly understood exactly what it was like to live through the Troubles up here. They were probably, to a certain extent, protected from it per se, but they thoroughly enjoyed it. And so the plan is I'll finish the 4th book this year, and then I will, from the feedback that I've had, from the reviews, from the followers, I will be in a better, good stead to approach publishers and say, right, I can, I've proven it, I've done it, I've completed it.
And would that be to produce new work or to have these reissued? Probably
reissued through a publisher. I'm actually looking at redesigning the cover, for example. I've learned so much through the self-publishing; it's unbelievable. So it's a matter of just doing another edition. And I haven't, when I look at the first book, for example, I start to read it and there's things I'd like to change, which I think is something that writers do all the time. They're never happy with the final product. But
I'm not sure they want you to stop changing.
No,
things.
I know, exactly. And it's work. Why break something when it's working?
So they are fiction, right? Yes. Okay. But you say they're based on real stories.
Yes.
Now, are they sort of a correlation of stories that were probably quite familiar with, typical kind of stories, if such a thing exists, and then you dramatise them and fictionalise it? Or did you speak to individuals of these stories that you have personal knowledge of, if you understand? I'm not being clumsy with the question.
No, not at all. I mean, I'll give you a little bit of a synopsis in the story. I mean, the first book is based around a shirt factory in Derry and the survival of a shirt factory. It's owned by a young Protestant who comes to the city who's quite naive and probably a little bit arrogant, but he's determined to keep the factory open. And then we've got a young British soldier from Newcastle who comes across, who joined the British Army like many did because there was no work. The shipyards were closing in Newcastle. So it's from his experience too, as to what, after the honeymoon period, what it was like for him to, what happens to him personally and through friends, serving in the north. And then you've got a protagonist who's a staunch unionist, and from his perspective too. So what I've tried to do is be as unbiased as I possibly could be by telling the stories through. I mean, for example, I did interview a British soldier, and I did watch a lot of YouTube interviews about serving soldiers at that time to get a sense of what their life was like, because depending on who you were, each of us had different experiences growing up through the Troubles. So it was trying to tell a story from each perspective.
You're on volume 3 now, working on volume 4. Turmoil, Darkness and Light are the 3 editions out at the moment. Are they continuations of the same story? Do we have a crossover of characters?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a tetralogy, as it's called, but absolutely. There's you've got the main core characters, 3 or 4 main core characters. I mean, Turmoil starts in 1972, just after Bloody Sunday. Darkness goes into the mid-70s, which was probably especially across in England, for example, was the worst years for the atrocities that happened in England. Light is coming into the early 80s, and then finally Hope will be leading up to the Good Friday Agreement, 1996.
So there's a bit of responsibility here in what you're doing, in that I suppose you have to accurately timeline things and sort of capture where things were at what time, and that it feels like that's really what it was like. But also too, when you're talking about members of different communities involved, and when you're talking about trying to represent someone who was a soldier, for example, or other soldiers, there is, you have to be careful there. It's a maze that you're trying to get through there. Do you, as much as you can, because no matter what anyone does, you'll always have detractors and critics, but do you think you've struck those balances well? Are you satisfied with how you've done that?
I mean, I've worked really, really hard at doing that through a lot of research.
It doesn't matter, I think, don't know much if you're in France reading this, or if you're in Canada, or if you're in Australia, but if you're sitting in Derry or Donegal or maybe to a lesser extent Dublin, then it probably matters a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, and I think that's from the reviews, that's one of the core messages that are coming out, the fact that they have been very evenly balanced. Because, and again, this is the advantage of doing self-published, is that I have been able to write it in my own words. And I mean, I did grow, I grew up through the Troubles. I lived in a Republican council
from the outside
estate.
Watching in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's your story too, really, effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's I've been able to be more sensitive, and it is a very fine line. So I make sure that I have sort of 4 or 5 readers. But
at the same time, you have to be brave sometimes to say, right, okay, this. I might upset people in this chapter, but hopefully they'll understand in the round. You have to have a bit of bravery in that regard too, I imagine.
No, you're totally right. I mean, there's 1 or 2 chapters in there that people have told me they've had to put the book down because it really is quite descriptive and raw. But
which will infuriate or upset or evoke different types of emotion. That's what art does, isn't it?
Well, I mean, and then that's the whole thing. That's why I thoroughly love being. I embrace that challenge as well. I embrace the challenge of actually putting things in and describing things.
And your readers in the feedback, do they recognise the story you're telling, if you know what I mean? Do you get people say, you're telling my story here, to some extent, obviously? Not everyone's been through the nitty-gritties of it, but just how you present life.
Yeah. I mean, I was quite moved. I was at Dingle Literature Festival there just before Christmas, and I actually did a reading from one of the scenes, a bomb goes off in Shipley Street, and one of the ladies that was there, she took me aside and she said that she had been in Dublin, during the Monaghan Dublin bombs, and how I had actually described it was precisely she was back there. So it is very, very descriptive. And, you know, when I hear something like that, it's actually quite emotive. You get quite sort of, oh my goodness, because this is real life. This is real events and real emotions and everything. The legacy of it still exists.
So, I mean, obviously, you've mentioned some of the timelines that this series of books covers. Do you stick to that? So say there was a particular shooting or an event or an arrest or an explosion. Do you intertwine? So in other words, how much does this reflect things that actually happened?
Oh, very much so. I mean, I've used the Kane reports that you get from Ulster University, and they literally year by year have a day by day timeline. Wow. So there's a lot of things in there, you know, things that people that have been so easily missed. You know, like you know, not, dare I say it, not smaller events, but you know, really heartbreaking events.
I understand what exactly what you mean in that, and it's hard to describe but I do know what you're saying. Stuff that doesn't necessarily live in people's minds all of the time, outside of those that were directly affected by it. Okay,
absolutely.
So, to some extent, and maybe it's not the intention, for someone outside of Ireland, right outside of Britain, listen, let's forget that this is very fresh in the mind for a lot of people over there as well, then to some extent they will learn of the Troubles, then the history of Northern Ireland over the decades that you've dedicated these books to. And wrapped around that then is these fictional characters living real life stories effectively.
I mean, that was the whole the purpose was, for want of a better word, to educate, because I was very fortunate, you know, I did a lot of travelling. I've travelled all over the world, and time again people, you know, what was it all about, you know, why did it last so long? And I really get sick of, I just get fed up of people asking me the questions. So I thought, well, by doing a fictional story, you know, of characters, I thought, you know, it's a good read, but you're learning at the same time. You know, you're educating. And again, you know, you look at the reviews and people say, I never knew that had happened. I knew I'd never, you know.
So when you've approached publishers, I kind of get maybe where they're coming from. I think people are kind of exhausted. To some extent. And it's not just this. You see it with other issues, injustices often around the world, where there's a lot of stuff has been done and people go, you know, people don't have the emotional capacity to go through it again through another form. So you were kind of pushed back for kind of those reasons.
So very much that reason. Okay. It's purely the fact that it was based in the Troubles.
So then what made you persist? What made you, because I presume at that point, you know, there are people saying to you, well, these guys, you know, they're in the business, they know what they've got, they know what's selling, they know this, you know what I mean? And people around you might have, in a very positive way, tried to discourage you, if you know what I mean? Because you don't want you to waste your time and efforts and all that kind of stuff. So despite all of that, you continued. What made you continue?
Pure stubbornness. I mean, and determination. I just felt I wanted to get the stories out, you know. The fourth book, I have, at the moment, I was awake at 3 o'clock this morning, my head spinning with all these characters. They're all asking me what's going to happen next and where they're going to go. But I liked, it's important to me to prove to myself that I can do it, and this is why I've embraced this. I love doing it, but I would also say to anybody who wants to write a book, it is really quite cathartic as well in doing it and getting it out of your system. You know, who knows where these books are going to go? I mean, I can't work any harder than what I've done on them, but I truly believe, you know, if you're doing something you love, then, you know, call it fate, you know, it'll take off. And again, if you think how many books they're published every year, through traditional publishers, there's just under 200,000 books in the UK published every year, and then there's me. You know, so it's all a matter of just pure believing in what you're doing, and I truly believe in these stories, and I believe in the characters, I believe in the message, and I really want people to read and enjoy and learn.
All right, I was chatting to Jane Buckley, who's the author of Stone Corner. She's self-published 3 books so far, working on her 4th. So how tough is it then to get a book? You know, you write it, right? Okay, so someone has to read over it too as well, presumably.
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Advice on formatting and stuff, I don't know. You have to go to a printing factory, you know, do you have to design this?
Yeah, well, I mean,
like, that sounds like a hill I wouldn't climb, but is it as tough as it sounds?
It is tough.
And I'm only talking about the highlights here.
No, it is tough. I mean, and again, there's lots of lessons learned, but, I took a chunk of money out of my pension and I paid for a professional editor. I mean, the process is, I would write a chapter. I've been fortunate. I can write about 2,000 words a day when I put my mind to it. John would check the chapter, give me feedback, and then I would obviously work on getting the final. And they're big books. I mean, they're 135,000 words. That's 9 hours of reading. 9 hours on audio, because I was looking at doing audio. But, I've got a professional editor, a copywriter, who's actually based in Christchurch in New Zealand. So I have a process now.
There's no corners cut in that regard, but you have to do it yourself.
Oh, you do.
And source these people.
You do. And, you've, especially if it's self-published, it's got to be 200%. Because there's a lot of, quite frankly, there's a lot of work out there that's self-published work that isn't up to standard. And then obviously I believe there still is a sort of a feeling that if you self-publish, you're not taken as seriously as you would be a traditional publisher.
Are we still at that point?
I feel we are. I feel we are. I mean, there's a number of big competitions that if you're self-published author, they won't touch you, like Ampost, any of the credible ones. But more and more as time goes on, I mean, the number of books that have been self-published since 2010 has gone up by something like 246%.
And listen, there are some people that do back the whole self-publishing area, but you kind of have to flog it yourself.
That's the hardest thing. Yeah.
And even you almost sell your soul to get on to plug it, really.
Yeah,
kind of a thing,
and
what I mean?
not many
Which
people...
probably feeds into this hierarchy of publishing companies versus self-published.
Truly, absolutely. And I mean, fortunately, my background's been sales and marketing, so I've got that sort of steel, enamel, whatever, I can take it. But a lot of authors find that really, really difficult. But I just, I'm having a ball.
What do you think needs to change, if anything, then? Because at the end of the day, publishing companies are, they're profit-driven. They're private companies. They can make their own decisions. Yeah. There are pathways now, the same with music, where people can record their own music, make their own videos, post it themselves on YouTube, put it up on Spotify, iTunes. Does anything need to change, or... is this just the way it's going to be for those who find themselves having to self-publish?
No, I don't think anything's good. I think it's changed so much, and I think COVID certainly had a huge effect on it. I think the number of people that found they had hobbies they never knew they could do, or they discovered talents that they didn't have, and writing definitely was one of them. I mean, people still prefer, something like 80% of people still prefer a hardback or a paperback book.
It is. Sales of paperbacks
in Ireland
are increasing.
I mean, they are increasing,
yeah.
Absolutely. So, there's always going to be a want for books.
Of course. Well, listen, obviously, we had this conversation with a bookstore owner not so long ago. There was this fear that the Kindle, isn't it?
Yeah,
would kill off the book.
Yeah.
But it clearly, people want the smell, the feel, the physical.
There's no better feeling in the world than, having a book in your hand and just disappearing into a corner.
Yes.
But with people who are time poor, and with audiobooks as well, they are definitely increasing.
Don't work for me, or podcast.
No, but they're not for everybody.
I fall asleep 5 minutes in, and I'm gone.
No, you're right.
The amount of podcasts I've started, and not all at night time.
No, I know.
And 10 minutes in,
your head, your
head's
away
you fall asleep
somewhere else,
3 times, and then that's never to go back again.
I
because how often can you restart the same podcast? And I love true crime stuff as well. But I've found I can't even listen to them now when I'm driving.
Yeah,
because I've got this muscle memory of sleep.
No, it's true. I mean, it's true, and your mind sort of wanders off anyway, doesn't it? So.
I think maybe because this is what I do. Then that's my switch off, and it's not through boredom, by the way. It's pure relaxation because it empties the mind.
Yeah.
In terms of how you sell the books, then obviously you've got a background in marketing. You're going to be using social media, online markets, and that kind of stuff. Amazon, for example, we talked about how they're Spotify, very easy to put a song up on Spotify. If you want to flog stuff on Amazon, is that tough?
Amazon works beautifully when it works.
Okay.
I mean, it really is. It's an amazing platform, but my books have been taken off Amazon.
Really?
They were taken off on the 21st of December. I have actually written to the UK country manager, a guy called John. I've written his name down somewhere. I have no idea why they've been taken off. I keep getting the same generic response, and I have decided, you know, because it really...
Is it like community guidelines or something?
Oh, it's something to do. I mean, they want the monopoly. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you put your books on Amazon, you're not allowed to put them on into any other sort of platform.
Right. So your own website?
Well, even on your own website. And I think that's... What frustrates me is I had the best quarter last year leading up to Christmas. So what they've done is they've taken them off the...
Pulled the rug from
platform.
underneath.
They've kept the royalties. Right, I must have sent them something like 18 emails asking them to explain to me why,
frustrating.
And nothing, absolutely
nothing. Do you think that they've been flagged as propaganda or something?
No, I don't think. Well, you know, that did cross my mind.
That being said, you know, Alex Jones's books are up there, right? Okay, so I don't think we're not in that territory.
No, thank God.
Maybe book 4.
Yeah, no.
It couldn't be community guidelines then.
I honestly, I don't know. This is the problem.
Wow,
they won't tell me. I mean, I had an email there last week just saying this is our final, this is our final decision. It will not be changed. So what I've decided to do is, because I really did get myself, especially self-publishing, it makes such a difference having them. Everybody expects your books to be on Amazon.
Of course, because that is within the self-publishing. That's the mark of success, I suppose, isn't it?
But I can,
and reviews and ratings.
Yeah.
And is there other books of a similar name?
Pardon?
Is there
no, not at all. But I mean, I've got the ebooks on my website, janebuckleywrites.com, so I can sell the ebooks myself. You can get the paper copies on my website, order and pay for them as well. You know, they're in Bookmark and Letterkenny. You know, they're in Little Acorns and Derry. So just Google Jane Buckley and they'll come up. So I've decided to let it go. They can go away and I'll find something else.
Hold on a second.
Huh?
Stubborn Jane wouldn't let things go.
Oh, you know what? You know, I looked at some of the things, you know.
I want an explanation. I would let it go if I had an explanation.
I don't know.
But
I honestly don't know. But I've looked at it. I did a really bit of research even just yesterday evening. It's not just me. It happens to an awful lot of authors and they're all as frustrated as I am.
Right, so you're one of
it's
many
not
then.
just me.
Okay, so that's Jane Buckley there. Her books, they're a trilogy plus one.
Yeah.
Stone Corners. 3 books out now. 4th in the works.
Yeah.
And who is to say that, given the organic success, because I think it has to be organic when you're not reliant on $1 million publishing campaign. Promotional campaigns and what have you. It's word of mouth and stuff. Maybe they'll end up being picked up and it'll be like the fella that didn't sign the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fingers crossed. But I mean, it's a good read, and you know, if you want a really good, I'm one of those annoying people that sort of see the plot happening. So when I do write, I try to avoid people being able to sense what's coming up, and it seems to have worked.
The lazy way of doing that, and I hope you don't employ it because it's going to be embarrassing, is loads of random red herrings.
Oh, okay.
Have you loads of red herrings?
Not at all. None whatsoever.
I'm about your Miss Marple type.
But I actually really like Miss Marple, but I can tell straight away what's going to happen. No, there's a few,
even with the red herrings.
Yeah, there's a few things. Then people have gone, oh my goodness, I didn't see that. It all happens in the last chapter as well, and there are cliffhangers, by the way.
Have you figured out, and very finally, do you have to wrap up stories in book 4?
Yes.
Okay, so in other words, if people are halfway through book 2 or 3, because there's nothing worse than when you're interested in a series and it gets cancelled, right? And then you don't know.
Oh, no. I know exactly what's happening in the last chapter. I've known that from day one, from the first book. I know exactly where they are. Can't say any more than that. And I know exactly what the last words are going to be, the last sentence.
All right, Jane, listen, it's been lovely chatting to you.
And you, thank you very much.
I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you.
If you can remember to contact Caroline and tell her if Amazon ever give you a reason, because that's really piqued my interest, because it doesn't make any sense, and I don't like things that don't make sense.
You know what, I'll be honest with you, Craig, I'm just going to at the moment, I'm just going to focus on, finishing the 4th book, and then we'll see what happens. But I'm not going to stress out about it. There's worse things happening in the world than me not being on Amazon, so I'll live with it.
It's all relative, but I get it.
It is, yeah.
I do understand. All right, thank you very much, Jane Buckley. Check out Stone's Corner or search Jane Buckley Writes, and you'll find out where you can get hold of those copies. Right, so those books. We'll be back with more after the break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 912 9562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny Clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who aren't able to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
At Ulster Bank, our team is continuing to close current and deposit accounts, along with some of our branches. At this time, if your notice period and your deadline has passed, your account is now queued for closure. All personal and business account deadlines are fast approaching. You must take urgent action. If you are still relying on your bank account and in need of more support, please contact us immediately. Visit ulsterbank.ie, your local branch, or call 0818 210 260. Call costs may vary and calls from mobiles may not be free. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Stop Highland Radio are going to Scotland from Monday the 1st of May to Thursday the 4th of May with the very best of music, and we would love for you to join us. Staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow, we are bringing with us some of the biggest country stars, including myself, David James, Declan Ernie and Robert Mazzell, to name a few. You will enjoy luxury travel to Glasgow, 3 nights dinner, bed and breakfast with music and entertainment each evening. Join us on the Highland Fling to Glasgow this May for only €575 per person. To book, call Highland Radio today on 074 91 25000. Early booking is advisable. Single supplement applies.
Broadcasting throughout the Northwest and across the world online. This is Highland Radio. The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House, Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €1,750 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House bingo tonight at 8:30.
House to Home Interiors, Bridgend, Donegal. Massive January sale now on. Open recliner suites starting from an incredible $1,299, or get a McQuaid Irish made suite at a great price. Call in and see our new flooring section: carpets, wooden floors, dining and slide ropes. House to Home Interiors, Bridgend, Donegal. Massive January sale now on.
This January, staying in is the new going out. At Kelly Centre Mountaintop, we've mega deals in fresh, healthy, ready meals range, with great deals in our award-winning off-licence and winning offers in fresh meat and produce. Kelly Centre Mountaintop, 2022 winner of the National Forecourt Retailer of the Year.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Salah, Nunes, the Beatles. You can now fly to Liverpool 8 times a week with Ryanair this summer. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Scattered showers this morning with brighter sun spells developing. Cloud will build from the west though in the late morning and early afternoon with outbreaks of light rain and drizzle. Highest temperatures 7 to 9 degrees. Sinn Féin's health spokesperson is Deputy David Cullinan. He joins us on the programme now. Thanks for taking the call this morning. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, we learned over the weekend that a secret plan to hide the scale of the state's liability for illegal nursing home charges, we know it's been revealed now in confidential government records. Your assessment, presumably we can only go by what the whistleblower has released and what has been written about it. Your assessment of what successive governments were involved in?
Well, I have to stress from the outset, Greg, that these are allegations that have been made by a whistleblower. They first appeared in the Mail on Sunday yesterday. And at first reading, obviously it's deeply troubling and was quite shocking in terms of the allegations which have been made. So just first of all, this goes back to unlawful charges for people in nursing homes from 1970 up to 2005. And this would have predated the Fair Deal scheme. And essentially the 1970 Health Act would have basically allowed for nursing home care to be provided free. So the state has accepted that these charges were unlawful. The problem is that there was a memo that was referenced in in this article yesterday, and is part of a package of documentation which was given to the newspaper by this whistleblower. But this memo was prepared by the department, was given to Minister James Riley allegedly in 2011. And again, the allegation in the article, in terms of what's in the memo, is that there was a secret strategy put in place by the department and by the state to essentially force people to go through the courts. So rather than accept that people had recourse for repayment because of overcharging and for unlawful charges, the state would essentially drag people through the courts. A lot of people who went to court dropped out, over half of them, because of, I would imagine, cost and length of time. And then, of course, there are people who simply wouldn't have the means to go to court. So the central contention in the article and from the whistleblower is that this was a secret, covert strategy to essentially drag families through the courts unnecessarily.
And it was only, as part of this strategy, it was only at the point where disclosures were sought that they would then settle quietly.
Yeah, so essentially the point is that the department would have accepted that if any of these cases actually proceeded to court, that the state would lose, and that would set a precedent. So the strategy was to drag it out through the courts, get to a point of discovery, and then settle. But of course, at that point, families would have amassed legal costs. For some families, the process might have taken too long, and they simply drop out. So it was a war of attrition.
And for many families with no resources, they would never have got as far as even having a solicitor to pursue this. And then you would have watched on to see what level of success there was, and people may not have pursued it because they simply didn't have the money to do so. Now, it is also suggested in this article and in these documents that this just wasn't established and that was it. No one else was none the wiser. That this is something that would have come across many senior people's desks over the years, and it would have to have been maintained. If it turns out to be true, there's a lot of people had knowledge of this and didn't seemingly say anything.
Yes, that's exactly it. And if this is true, and the facts as we see them in terms of what's reported from this memo don't make for comfortable reading from government. So the first thing that needs to happen is all of these documents need to be published, and there's full disclosure, because we all have to see the information for ourselves. So I think we have to make that point first. These are allegations, and the only way to deal with this is to have all of the facts presented and published. But if it is the case that the facts as reported, or the allegations as reported, are true, then it does implicate several ministers for health, because what it says was that similar memos were also given to other ministers for health, including the Taoiseach when he was Minister for Health, and Simon Harris. Now, again, all of these are allegations. I don't have the full facts. And I think what needs to be done very quickly, which I believe is in the best interest of the department, but also in the best interest of government, but certainly in the best interest of those who were forced through the courts and those maybe who didn't have that opportunity, that all of that information is fully disclosed, that the memo in 2011 that's referenced is published, and any other documentation relevant to this. All of the facts need to be established, need to be disclosed, and we need to be able to see all of this for ourselves. And I've written to the Oireachtas Health Committee yesterday asking that they would write to the HSE seeking all of this information, but it shouldn't take that.
Now, Leo Varadkar this morning has said he's never received a memo along these lines. He also says that the state never conceded the point that private nursing home charges were covered by medical cards. He went on to say that the way it was presented on Sunday, the real picture is more complex than that. I was never party to devising a legal strategy relating to nursing home charges. Do you accept that?
Well, I don't know is the answer to it. I mean, I was very careful right through this interview and other interviews in saying that these are allegations. These are allegations that surfaced yesterday. Of course, then we're going to have a response to that, and that's fine. The only way for any of us to make up our own minds, and I can't determine at this stage what's fact and what's not, is for us to actually see the documentation. So I think it would be in the interest of the Taoiseach and the current Minister for Health and previous Minister for Health to have this information published, for the facts to be out there, because I want to simply establish the facts.
Okay.
I think if we have that memo, we can look at the full context. We can look at exactly what was being proposed. On the face of it, from what we can read, this doesn't read well for government. But I'm also conscious of the fact that I haven't read the memo. I've seen
selective parts of it quoted in an article, and the best thing that we can do for everybody, Greg, is for the report to be published.
Okay, were you aware, did you have any knowledge of anything like this, that this may have been happening, or did anyone raise this issue with you, alleging that it was happening before Sunday? Sunday the 1st you heard of this?
Well, I think the whole rationale of the allegation which has been made is that this was covert and this was secret, and the whole logic of it is that force people to go through the courts.
Yeah, but as an opposition health minister, was this ever raised with you? Have you ever had these allegations furnished to you in any form whatsoever?
No, but I was aware of the Ombudsman report in 2010, which actually raised some of these issues and actually raised concerns in relation to a legal strategy. So we had a very critical Ombudsman report in 2010, which is fact, and which did outline very serious
And did you pursue this since? Like, in other words, as an opposition health spokesperson, is this not something that you should have been pursuing yourself rather than reacting? And we appreciate you accepting our invite, of course, to an article in a newspaper. Do you know what I mean? Is this not the type of stuff that you should be pursuing, especially considering you had knowledge of the Ombudsman's report to ensure what was going on, was it ongoing, and so on and so forth? Not you necessarily as an individual, but certainly as the lead opposition party at this time.
Well, listen, I think that's a fair question in relation to the political system generally. But what I would say is that this memo that we're talking about was given to government only. I had no sight of a memo. I wasn't aware of any legal strategy. The government may say there wasn't any legal strategy. So what we have at the moment, to be fair, Greg, is allegations in a newspaper that need to be substantiated by full disclosure of documentation. It's only then that we can establish the full facts. The Ombudsman report, by the way, was focused mainly on what happened from 1970 up to 2005, and was making the point that the system knew, that the department knew, that the health boards at the time knew that these charges were unlawful, but continued anyway. It did make reference then to the need for a redress scheme and something different to actually resolve the issue. But I obviously had no information in relation to this memo. I haven't seen it. I've seen selected parts of it quoted, and I want to see it published. So I think it's reasonable for me to treat these, in the first instance, as allegations, and second of all, to seek full disclosure from government.
And there's comments going back. This was raised in it all too long before that, in the early noughties too, where Micheál Martin made comments as it relates to refunds for people who perhaps shouldn't have been charged. So it's going back, over 20 years at this point. Finally, if this, I mean, I know you're choosing your words very carefully, and I understand that, and I actually do respect it in terms of not making conclusions before we know all the facts. But if this is substantiated to any extent, really at all, that there was a policy that this did happen, what do you believe the consequences should be? In other words, how big do you think this actually is in terms of the implications for the current government, for example?
Well, if the allegations are true and there was such a legal strategy put in place, I think it has fundamental difficulties for government. And I would go as strong as saying that. I think it would obviously be a huge scandal that government would have to account for. And that obviously is based on whether or not all of the allegations which are made are true. And again, I have to be fair as well in terms of it's a newspaper article. I've read it in detail. I'm aware of the 2010 Ombudsman report. I haven't seen or read the full memo which was referenced in the document. I would want to read it, and I think anybody interested in this story in politics will want to see the full report. And I believe that it's actually in the interest of government for that report to be published. If the allegations are true, they are very, very serious and will have very serious implications for government. And that's the reason why I think the government needs to act very urgently and very quickly and engage in full disclosure.
OK, listen, thanks for all your time this morning. I'm sure there's quite a few demands on you, so I appreciate it. Deputy David Cullinan, Sinn Féin's health spokesperson.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 912-9562 and bring care home.
Wet n Wild is 20 years in business and would like to thank and reward our loyal customers with a massive 20% off absolutely every product purchased in store during the month of February. Choose from our massive in-store stock of quality outdoor clothing, footwear, equipment and accessories, and 20% discount of all prices will be applied at the till.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock. Good morning to you. Time for a news update, and let's say good morning to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A meeting is being held this week on progressing the campaign for redress for defective block homeowners in Donegal. The Micah Action Group is urging people to attend on Thursday at the Station House Hotel, Letterkenny. The group issued a letter to all Donegal County Councillors last week to put pressure on the government to deliver. Chair of the Micah Action Group, Lisa Hohn, says there still appears to be no urgency from government. Significant damage was caused to Buncrana Golf Club after the green was vandalised during what has been described as a 14-minute period of pure havoc. CCTV footage shows two young men on an electric scooter entering the ground shortly after 5:30 p.m. and damaging an area of around the 8th green. Francis McGrory, secretary of Buncrana Golf Club, says it will take 2 to 3 months for the damage to be fully repaired. He's warned that those responsible have until the end of the day to come forward. Lifford Greyhound Stadium is to reopen in April. In a notice issued by the stadium, it's been confirmed that racing will return Sunday, April 2nd. A race has not been held in Lifford since 2019 after the stadium closed its doors due to what it said was an ongoing lack of support from the Irish Greyhound Board. It was expected to reopen in March of last year. Councillor Jerry Crawford says has been welcoming the latest announcement. The Taoiseach and Health Minister must make statements for what they knew of an alleged strategy to deny families access to refunds of illegal nursing home charges. Sinn Féin is making the call after revelations on the Mail on Sunday that successive governments had allegedly a secret plan to block refunds. It's alleged the state face a €12 billion liability in compensation for families who were wrongly charged the care over 30 years. The party spokesperson on health, David Kilnan, says it's claimed that senior ministers were aware. Gardaí in Donegal are warning of the latest scam doing the rounds. People are receiving text messages pertaining to be from An Post claiming custom fee is owed. The scammers are requesting a small amount of money to be paid in order to facilitate the dispatch of the parcel. Gardaí say with many shopping online, the text is sent in hope that whoever received it is waiting a delivery of some sort of parcel. They are warning that An Post will never send a message containing links when contacting about custom charges. And finally, 2,132 knives were seized by the Gardaí last year. It's a 16% increase on 2001 when 400 fewer were recovered by the force. In total, over 17,000 have been seized over the past decade. That's all for now. Back with more headlines at 12 o'clock.
Thanks, Donna Marie.
Extraordinary, streaming exclusively on Disney+.
Would you say your greatest weakness is?
Crippling insecurity, selfish and lazy. I lack ambition, stubborn, argumentative, jealous. Don't think I'm capable of love. I only wash my hands to someone else in the bathroom. I don't know why I just told you that.
Meet Jen.
You were such a brave little soldier.
Extraordinary, an original series.
Oh, I feel so free. Maybe I should take my bra off.
Now streaming exclusively on Disney+. 18+ subscription required. T's and C's apply.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme, and we welcome back to the programme Brendan Devaney. Brendan, how are you?
I'm the very best, Greg. Good to see you.
Good to have you back.
Yes, good
What's
to be back.
going on?
We're moving and shaking again.
How many years have you been doing this nonsense
This is season 4, Greg. I can't believe it. It's Who would have thought it? Yeah, but time flies quick, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Listen, it's great, and it's a huge success too for you in the station. Right, okay. And what a Monday to come back on to after what I thought was, all things considered, a great game of football in Ballybofey yesterday, and a superb result. And I think, I'm really pleased for the players, because even afterwards, I think rather unfairly but understandably, Patrick McBurty was asked about, Michael Murphy no longer being in the team. I thought that was put to bed. But anyway, I think he handled that expertly. And as I say, I'm not criticising it. I can understand. But I think just in the post-Murphy era and with the new management team, I just thought it was a cracking game, and it showed great resolve, and it was super finish. Yeah. I could hardly speak.
I was the same. Funny, I was on with Des Cahill yesterday evening, and when we spoke about the game, he says, I can hear the emotion in your voice. And I know people say, right, it's the first league game, it's 2 points, what are you talking about? But the pressure that this team and management was under, and what they had, a text Paddy Carr last night, the lead in this game,
text back?
It couldn't be horrible. Yeah, he hasn't even read it yet. But,
hey, I texted him too.
He's had a vintage,
1,000 times.
He's had a vintage where it takes a few days to come back. But no, listen, hats off to him. Like, I've never seen a first league game where there was so much pressure on, from the rhetoric of what happened with the management in terms of the appointment of the manager. Already, Greg, with people not joining the panel, with injuries, with retirements, like Michael, you mentioned Neil McGee, the vultures were already circling. I'm out around the county, a lot of people were questioning, this is going to happen. It was all doom and gloom.
Who's he?
So for them to pull out this performance, particularly when we were 1-6 to 3 points down, it was, I don't know, was there about 25 minutes on the clock at that stage, Greg? It was looking bad. We're at home.
But it was bottle and grit and determination.
We reeled off 7 points in a row from that, Greg, and it was amazing turnaround. And you just seen, it's a brand new team basically. 5 of the team that started against Armagh, you had 5 debuts, full debuts.
So we're at the point now, really, and when I say we, I mean me, is about managing expectations, all right? Because we're on this roller coaster of, after a great win, thinking, right, is this the year? Or after a sad loss, writing the team off for the year, right? So we've got this high and low and high and low. And then, of course, understandably, I suppose, to some extent, with social media, people react instantly, okay?
Yeah.
We need to sort of manage our expectations here, don't we? And say, right, cracking start, let's see where we go from here. And let's see what the season. This is early doors. It's a building process. Let's not run away with ourselves. And in the opposite, if it was a defeat, let's not crap on ourselves.
No, that's in normal terms. Listen, let's put this in the context, Greg. This is just 2 points. It means nothing. Like, we could get beat by Tyrone next week. This is a very weakened Kerry team that came up to our home patch. Now, we were very weak. They were very weak. Okay, but they're All-Ireland champions.
Very weak?
Well, they had 5 of the team started All-Ireland final. Now, there was 3 of the lads that played that came on in that final. So you'd say maybe there's 8, right? Now, they had their full back line in there. And they were very solid in that first 25-minute period. But then as we grew into the game, Greg, in terms of that new team, now we have a whole host of people to come back. So you can't say nothing about this result in terms of the whole season. All it means...
We will, though, you see. That's,
well, I think if you look at it, it's impossible to say because of all the players that are out.
Yeah.
So once they're all back, and then you get a few games together, then you can start to see maybe where the team could go.
We're seeing foundations, though, and any great team's built on foundations.
Listen, brilliant. And some of the performances here, all the debut guys come on, chipped in. You'd have to say, obviously, McColgan was unreal. Some of Patton's kickouts. My God, you're on about inches from 60, 70 metres away. Sean Patton can land the ball. It's just crazy how good this man is at what he does. And of course, we give him a terrible giveaway goal, which we did last year to Championship. People were like, oh no, here we go again. But after that, you have to say,
goalkeeper, this is not a criticism, and I suppose you have to take it in the round. But I hate to see a goalkeeper ahead of play, and I know it sort of was a breakdown, and that's
yes.
When you're watching,
taking that out of it, right? Okay. But Greg, he's the best keeper in Ireland.
Not doubting that for a second.
My mate in Galway text, give us Patton, we'll win All Ireland, right? That's why people outside the county are saying it. But I have to mention and Darragh Boyle as well. He had a tough time under Bonar. Brilliant player coming up. Looked like the sky was the limit for him. Couldn't get into the Donegal team then. And he had a phenomenal game there yesterday too. And I really love that type of thing. You look at all the new guys coming in, Greg, and how the team gelled together and what they did. And then you look at the guy that
is down to selectors, because we're pulling players from all over the place. Downing's in the show, and West So, you know, is that something that gets overlooked maybe when we talk about it? That maybe, you know, the whole team is out there looking to get the best that's out there.
In terms of what the whole county?
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, someone just said that to me that came up there the last day, but we were on about Eulens in 97 when we won that famous championship. And it was, 14 years from everything was the south of the county then, and they were the hotbed, and there was nobody up here. And now it's gone everywhere, you know, and that's only good for football. And, like, I just listened to Keelan McColgan's interview, and he's talking about the club and for what he would mean now to the people in Eve Patrick and Muff, and how now that village is looking up to him, and like he's back with his club, like that's massive.
It's great you could see that too for such a young player, to see the importance of it, not just for himself but for family, for the club, for the community.
And the smaller club, I suppose, the more it has a big effect, right? Because if he was from a larger club, he's another county player. You know, it doesn't mean the same. So for someone to step up from a club like that there and do what he did yesterday, this is his debut, Greg. You know, I mean, it was unreal. I mean, the 3 points he kicked, they're as good as scores you'll see, and they had 3 of them. You know.
I'm going to start a GoFundMe page to get TG Cahir covers for the camera. I don't know if they only do it when they're up here, so it always looks like we've nothing but sideways. Come here, lads. I mean, this is not technology. It's like a cover that goes on the camera and extends out about a foot.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, it looked like, you know, a YouTube video at times.
Well, listen,
from
I was up for us, like, doing the game with Oshin, but the whole barrage of staff, surely one of them could at least have a cloth. You know, yeah, I mean.
Come here. Listen, it was good to see the game. Right, anyway, so I like where you're coming from with this in terms of the conversation, where we're going, where we're at the moment. You're going to be discussing this, though, and all the action. You're joined in studio by Donegal All-Ireland winner Big Neil Gallagher. Our master Aaron Kernan's also joining the conversation, and also talking to Maxi Curran. Yeah. The ladies have had a difficult start to the season. We'd love to always be talking off the back of a win, but
he's actually here, Greg. He heard about your wee coffee machine in the kitchen there, so I've got him up here for the interview because he was busy tonight. So he's going to be a wee recorded piece, but the rest of it's all live, and every show will be live now. And hopefully, Greg, as time goes on, we'll be able to get text in and feedback, more feedback from fans on what they thought of the weekend's action.
Listen, a show like this, we talk about current affairs and stuff, and there's a huge interest in it. We've hundreds and hundreds of texts, but there's another thing that people love to talk about, especially when they want to switch off from news a little bit, and that is sport, because opinions are like, you know what, we all have one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And listen, we've I think Big Neil been up, he's coming up to the studio tonight, you know. We're going down to the concert then for Creasa down in Nora, myself and himself, and Aaron Kiernan. I was up at a Francie Bailey do in Crossmaglen, the places you find yourself, you know. So it was a couple of Saturday nights back. So I said to Aaron, would you come on for the first show? But he's a great man, Aaron. Me and him do a bit of stuff on a podcast during the week there again. Really, really knowledgeable. So he'll help round up the whole league, because, of course, our buddies in Tyrone face to feet. And now we're playing them next week. So they're going to be back to the wall a wee bit.
Well, you see, that's the thing, because, you know, we're going to be going into the game buzzing, right? They're going to be going... The sport always throws up a story, and it's often the story that gets us hooked to watch it in the first place, isn't it? Because they're going to want to bounce back.
Yeah,
from
but
there.
the fact if they won, this would be a bit different. But now, because the league's so short, you got to win your home games. Yeah. It's desperate. Now, if you pick up one away, that allows you a wee bit of grace at home. But because they've lost now, they are gunning for us. But it's Donegal Tyrone. There'll always be a few fireworks, you know.
That's one way of putting it. All right, so that's looking good. That's the deal debate just after 7 p.m. This Monday, and of course it's a pod as well. Lots of people listen to the podcast. That's released on highlandradio.com not long after the programme itself airs. Good to have you back, Brendan.
Good to see you, Greg.
All right, okay, you go and have a cup of coffee with Maxi there.
Cheers.
The coffee machine, by the way, is not half as exciting as Brendan makes out. Just in case anyone thinks we've got this big deluxe thing here, it ain't like that at all. All right, great to see Brendan back in studio and on air again. 7 p.m. tonight, that's the DL debate. As you heard there, he's going to be chatting to Maxi Curran, looking at the start of the season for the teams he's involved with, and of course reflecting on that win, Donegal beating Kerry, and also roundup of all the action in Division 1s and 2s, and the guests are Neil Gallagher and former Armagh star Aaron Kernan as well, so that's a cracking lineup. Everyone knows what they're talking about there. We were chatting to Jean about her books. The caller says, I have Jane, I was thinking of Jean Curran for a second. I have Jane's first and second books, and I absolutely love them. Can't wait to get the third book now. Well, it's there available for you. And finally, just on this one before the break, so if the ministers didn't know about this issue in health, it's yet another scandal, and we aren't aware of it. What were they doing? Why did they not know? Who is responsible? All questions that will come out over the course of the next number of days, one would imagine, because if it is as outlined in the newspaper, incredibly significant, and definitely something that needs to be pursued and investigated.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 912 9562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Transport for Ireland invites you to bring someone on board for free this February bank holiday weekend.
Simply pay your fare using a TFI Leap card and your +1 travels free on participating TFI bus, train and tram services. This promotion is valid for travel from Saturday the 4th to Monday the 6th of February. So, with cleaner, greener and cheaper travel, the only question is, who'll be your +1? See transportforireland.ie for details, terms, conditions and participating operators.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny Clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who are unable to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
Tune in this Tuesday to the Community Garda information slot, on air after 10 a.m. on the 9 till noon show in association with Sheridan Security Systems. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
I'm delighted to say the DL debate returns this week for a fourth series. As ever, we'll have top-class feedback and analysis from all the GA action in the northwest and across the land. I'll be joined in studio this week by former Donegal star Big Neil Gallagher and former Armagh great Aaron Kernan. We'll discuss, of course, the big game between Donegal and Kerry, and we'll look across Division 1 and 2 of the National Football League. I'll also catch up with ATU and ladies football manager Maxie Kern. All this and a bit more just after 7 p.m. news this Monday on Highland Radio and podcasted on highlandradio.com.
The DL debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love in Sarah's kitchen.
All right, staying with sport, I suppose. Well, not I suppose, I am. Greyhound racing is returning to Lifford this spring with a grand reopening taking place on the 2nd of April, which is only a couple of months away. The track has been closed, of course, since August 2019 after 60 years of racing after it was put up for sale. We're joined now by the General Manager of the Lifford Greyhound Stadium, Seamus White. Good morning, Seamus.
Hi, good morning, Greg.
I suppose a lot of work has gotten to the point where you can announce the official opening date and start talking about the season ahead.
Yes, it has been indeed, Greg. We've been working behind the scenes over the last, just over 18 months now, since April 2021. And we've been engaging with the Greyhound Racing Ireland, local businesses, etc. So, plans are well underway, and, we're looking forward now to the next 8 weeks to the official opening date.
I mean, obviously, the Lifford Greyhound Stadium, you have your hardcore racing fans that want to go and watch it. Also, you would see staff parties there, hen parties there, whatever it might be. You wouldn't know who might turn up on a Friday night for it. But there's been a break. So really, to some extent, to some markets, it kind of maybe feels like you're starting from scratch. So what are you doing to sort of entice people to show them that this is a good night out and sort of reconvince people who maybe have found something else to do that they should be going to the Dogs?
Yes, and indeed, Greg. When the track reopened in 2003, it was regularly getting attendances of over 2,000 on some nights. You're right, we are rebranding it, we're relaunching it. We're partnering with the Old Docks in Derry, who are going to be running the restaurant side of things and the catering. at the track. And there is a new tote model, which is the heart of the new model that we're proposing. So whereas the other tracks in Ireland are funded in some part by the Irish government, this will be entirely self-funded. So it's all the revenue from the new tote system will be coming into the track. And to your original point about we want to appeal not just to the established greyhound fraternity that regularly went to Lifford, but to a whole new audience as well. You may have seen recently that Shelbourne had a student night where over 4,000 students turned up just prior to Christmas, and they're going to have another one in the near future as well. So we want to grow, the appeal to not just the local community, and we've already the messages have gone crazy over the weekend, so there'll be people travelling from Scotland, England, all across Ireland to the reopening. So the buzz is, it's very tangible.
I think people more are acutely aware of everything nowadays. I think it's a different world to that was in 2003. And in terms of funding for greyhound racing in this day and age, or there was some conversations about animal welfare issues. And I'm not suggesting that any of that's an issue at Lifford, but there is maybe a little bit of reputational rehabilitation, not for Lifford Greyhound Stadium, but for for greyhound racing, or maybe that's already been done and that's been shown with the turnouts you mentioned at Shelbourne. As I say, I'm not going to focus on. I don't want to be focusing on anything negative, but there are maybe perceptions out there that you're going to have to work on, or maybe enough time has passed where that's not as big an issue now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The greyhound welfare is one of our number one priorities at the track. I've been involved in greyhound racing all my life. I've had a number of retired greyhounds, so we want to take that message out to the general public that greyhounds are superb athletes in their own right when they're racing, but they make tremendous pets as well. So Greyhound Racing Ireland have been working behind the scenes over the last few years to I guess re-establish that reputation. And we're going to build on the work that they're doing, but we're also going to have a local effort to work with local greyhound charities and show that the rehoming and the welfare of the greyhounds are our number one priority. And to your point, Lifford is one of the safest stadiums in Ireland as well. It's a fantastic racing surface, and we'll ensure that reputation is upheld.
Is there much excitement on the circuit amongst trainers and breeders and what have you, that this track is back open for business again?
Yes, absolutely. For the people that have been there and visited some of the other tracks in Ireland, you'll see it's one of the best, if not the best track in Ireland in terms of the facilities. I might be a little bit biased there, but
we'll forgive you.
It's fantastic. And people I was at Shelbourne just before Christmas, and there were the inquiries from the trainers there, and there was a lot of support shown, so they're willing to make that trip up the road to brace their dogs there again, because they know how fantastic it was in the past, and they're very much looking forward to it. And it's the crowd and the atmosphere as well, which it can be sometimes lacking. It's obviously it was a difficult winter for everyone, but we're optimistic now that we're moving into the springtime, that now is the right time to relaunch Lifford.
Yeah, and I think in terms of job creation and in terms of business and its impact on the wider community, there can be a bit of snobbery in that, maybe it's not celebrated as much if it's in retail or in different areas, yet it's celebrated if it's in others. And obviously that's kind of be attributed to the value of the jobs. I get that. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is another employer open for business, and there's a dividend then presumably for the wider community too when you're attracting hopefully large numbers to an area.
Absolutely. When we open, there's going to be up to 60 full-time and part-time jobs at Lifford, and as we grow the business, so we're concentrating on getting the racing going again, but we plan to have the facility, a fantastic facility, open as a community hub. So alongside the racing on a Friday and Sunday, we'll be holding events on Saturdays during the week, so it'll be open for bookings across the board as we move through the summer. So that number of jobs can only grow, and it brings something back to the heart of the Lifford Strabane area, which is sadly it's been lacking in the last few years. That community hub that people can rally around and go and meet at. So that there's some fantastic plans in the schedule for us.
And obviously we're heading into a period of time where people are tightening the strings a little bit. You talked about this being self-funded, so it's bums on seats, people through the gates that will keep this going in what could be a difficult trading year for an awful lot of businesses. How resilient are you to that? And how resilient is the business model, of course, because it's like any business. You're not taking there's a risk in everything, but you know what I mean? Like, how confident are you that, that you can make this work?
Look, Greg, it is an experiment. We're completely changing the betting and tote model behind the scenes, but we're confident that this is what the industry needs. Our partners, Tote UK, have basically done this model with horse racing Ireland. They've shown that it can be successful. We're taking it a step further now with the Greyhounds. It's an even better model. So they've got a proven track record. We're tapping into their expertise. So that's let's call it an external source of revenue. The internal source of revenue, we're very confident from the interest over the weekend. There's going to be thousands of people there when we open up. It's then about sustaining that attendance going forward. So keeping things fresh, having live music, having live bands, etc. Having, as I mentioned before, community days, etc. We're going to work with, as we have done in the past, with local charities, sports associations to have sponsored meetings, etc. So we're very optimistic that certainly the summer months are looking very bright. Yes, we'll have to sustain that through the winter as well. And okay, it's a challenging environment, as you said, but also.
But it's like a lot of. I mean, obviously, this is dog racing, and I won't hold you much longer. Greyhound racing, but it is also like a licensed premises, selling food and drink. It's like a lot of businesses. Presumably, you hope to have a really, really good summer, and then that helps you over a few dark months. Maybe a good Christmas gets you through till March, and the whole show starts again. I mean, it does kind of reflect the hospitality industry pattern, really, I suppose, does it?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the key elements that I mentioned, our partners from the Old Docks. They're bringing their reputation as a fantastic food provider into the arena.
Booze. They're bringing the booze. That's what we're interested in.
And that as well. So we're bringing the draft beer back again. So we're all looking forward to that.
Well, listen, come here. As a 60 jobs, it's really not insignificant that at all. I wish you all the success, and thanks very much for joining us. And 2nd of April, let's see what comes of it. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
All right, bye-bye. Take care of yourself. All right, that is Seamus White there, General Manager of the Lifford Greyhound Stadium. Greyhound racing to return to Lifford with a grand reopening taking place on the 2nd of April. Then there's events every Friday and Sunday as well. So we wish them every success in that. I mean, obviously there are going to be people that believe it shouldn't be happening at all and that type of stuff. And I respect those views, and maybe some of them might be texting in. The mocks are starting soon. And I didn't know, I probably should know, that some parents are out there getting bills, right, for €120 per child for their child to sit their mock examinations. I thought we were supposed to have something close to a free education in this country, but not. The cost of the new mocks will be €120 per child. It covers the examination papers, of course, and correction by outside examiners and the writing paper and what have you. But if you don't pay, what happens? If you don't have the €120, many people don't have the €120. If you don't have it, what happens then? It's a big bill to get on top of everything else that parents are facing at the moment. Do you think that's a fair price, €120 odd? I won't mention the school because I'm not sure how widespread it is, if it's one particular school or many of them, but I've been contacted by a couple of parents that the €120 is beyond them at this time with everything else that's ongoing. It's not far off the money being allocated to help people pay their electricity bills. Do you have a view on that? 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000. All right, we're going to take a break. Our Monday focus is going to be on a new project to record suicides. We've talked about this on this programme quite a number of times, about, how can we discuss, tackle, target something if we don't really know the extent of the problem. Anecdotally, I think we do. But in terms of actual hard facts, what do we know? We're going to be speaking to the Donegal coroner, Dr. Dennis McCauley, about this after we take a break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love, like Super Value free range large eggs, 6-piece, $2.25. Super Value Irish creamery butter, 227 gram, $1.99. 2. Get thousands of special offers. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Get a great Clarins gift this week from McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. You'll receive 4 beauty treats and a gorgeous beauty bag when you purchase 2 Clarins skincare products, one to be a moisturiser or serum. This great Clarins offer is available while stocks last, in store at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie. With the best, costs less. For any skincare advice, call in and talk to the resident skincare consultants Mary or Gemma.
Ireland's biggest ever tribute weekend is coming back to Donegal. Trib Bash 2023 is taking place at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny on the 10th and 11th of February. The nation's very best tribute acts take to the stage with the fantastic award-winning Johnny Cash and June Carter tribute show Cash Returns, the sellout show Mac Fleetwood as Fleetwood Mac, the smash hit ABBA tribute with Bjorn Identity, and the show-stopping Queen tribute. Limited tickets available now at the hotel reception and online at eventbrite.ie. Trib Bash 2023. The perfect Valentine's party weekend.
Okay, Monday Focus now. We speak to Dr. Dennis McCauley, who is the county coroner. Dennis, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate your time this Monday morning.
Good morning, Greg.
And it's a timely conversation. Not so long ago, we had a guard in studio as part of the Community Garda information, and they took an opportunity to give out some information in relation to the Garda's role in people who are feeling suicidal or what have you. And it was off the back of what they had recognised is what seemed a peak in attempted suicide or suicide. But there's no figures on that as such or nothing. It's not anecdotal because the person's speaking from a position of knowledge. But we should have more information to back this up so we understand the extent of an issue. We can address it presumably as much as we can. We can put the right resort. This information, it's really important we have it, Dennis, is really what I'm getting to.
I think so. I think that we know that for each family that's affected by a death due to suicide, it is just so devastating. Occasionally, it can be anticipated that there's a risk, but quite a lot of the time, it just comes out of the blue. And then there's a sort of, as you say, people then try to, then in the context of Donegal, we're saying, well, what is the suicide rate in Donegal? What's the suicide rate in Ireland? Where are we? Is it going up? Is it going down? And I think it is important to sort of visualize what the figures are. And recently there was the end of last year, there was the publication of the Irish probable suicide deaths. Now, we had a presentation on this. It was Philip Todd and Anita Manelli who. This was a research project that looked at the amount of suicide in Ireland over the last for a 4-year period, and there's probably about 500 suicides a year in Ireland. And just the study is very good because where do we get our statistics from? As you know, at an inquest, if there's convincing evidence beyond reasonable doubt that the death was due to suicide, we recognize it as a suicide. But there are occasions where it is possible that's a suicide, but we haven't got enough evidence. So this research group went and looked at all on unexpected deaths.
So just to give us an example of that, so we understand it, where it might not be conclusive. A single vehicle collision, for example, would be one of those situations whereby you can't make an absolute determination unless there's other evidence there.
See, I think I am very conscious, and I'm almost speaking as a GP rather than a coroner today, because but at the same time, the things that you would notice would be drownings can be quite difficult to assess a person's intention or otherwise. I think if somebody has a history of alcohol use or drug use, if there is an overdose, and then such as road traffic accidents, such as that. So there are situations where, as a family in a coroner or as a doctor, you suspect, but that can't be proven. So this is a research that sort of tries to catch all of the deaths due to suicide.
Okay, just in relation to that, before we explain how that might work, Dennis, currently, are the figures underrepresented for the reasons you've just outlined as well? But we are also a small community, and, you know, families react to different things in different ways. Some might use it as an opportunity, say, for instance, to promote positive mental health. Others might not want it talked about at all. Because you're the coroner, maybe this is an unfair question, but is that reflected in the figures? In other words, in an under-reporting? In other words, the sensitivities of a very, very difficult situation?
Yeah, because this is a very difficult topic. You know, we always have to be very sensitive when we're chatting about it. But it was illegal in a paradoxical way to commit suicide up until recently. It was a sin in some faiths. So naturally, and as well, there was this instinct that, you know, then there was the whole issue about, you know, where you were able to be buried, all these sort of awful things that added to the whole trauma. So yes, was there an instinctive position that you didn't want to add, you know, further trauma to a family by it being described as a suicide? I think that that's even reflected in this research. The amount of times that the coroner was more confident and more willing to say that it was a suicide has increased over those 4-year periods. That nationally there would have been sort of vagueness in the verdict, but then there was more confidence. It went from 69 to almost 80%. So what you say is true in almost all aspects, perhaps even in coroners' courts also, that there was a tendency to be vague, and now there is more tendency to be more positive, not more positive in the
Understood. Yep.
In the
determination.
Now,
Yep.
Is that cruel? Is that a cruel thing to do? No, it's not. I think that I think it's important to know, because as you said, there is a vacuum when there is a figures vacuum. People don't know how to reflect it. Just to analyze figures slightly in that there's suicide is awful. Thankfully, it would appear to be getting less common. Ireland, in regards to suicide figures, is actually on the lower scale from a European wise. Now, each of those is devastating and each of those is fine, but to actually see the incidence sort of stabilizing, going down is a positive thing. Now, we don't have figures for the time of the pandemic and the lockdown, and those figures will be coming shortly. So we don't know, but overall it is dropping. But as is always, Ireland has probably a disproportionate amount of deaths in under 25s relative to the rest of Europe. And that has always been the case. For young men, it's the most common cause of death under 25. So I think having the figures having the figures is important. Then, as there was an excellent pilot done in Donegal for the actual Connecting for Life, and this was a situation of, was it better to open the Pandora's box or better to keep it closed? And we realised from research it's better that we talk about suicide. It's better that as a community base, not just health professionals, but everybody talks about mental health and suicide.
Go ahead.
Just finish that.
Yep.
If there is then somebody who's deemed to be at risk, that the resources are there
to wrap around them
and to wrap around and to help them. Those are the two important things, and that's why it is a very sensitive topic. It's one that I'm slightly uncomfortable chatting about, but I think it is important.
We all are, Dennis, and I recognise that. And keeping the Pandora's box closed, is that for fear of what sometimes you can see as clusters? In other words, you'll have one suicide, and then you might see others in a community or in a friends group. because we're still maybe that's a part.
No, I think that is very valid as well. I think more the Pandora is sort of generally it's important to talk about suicide. It's just important to talk about it. So we instinctively don't like talking about it. Here am I, and I'm usually quite comfortable on the radio, but I'm uncomfortable talking about it. It is an uncomfortable topic to talk about, but it's very important that we do. And as you say, there are areas in times of my life as a GP, I have noticed it where there is, particularly in that under 25 group, where their coping mechanisms of young males and their life experiences are different, that they can react in a very because one of the things that the research shows is that in the time you're most likely to basically I'll give you three statistics. The ratio of male to female is 4 to 1 of suicides. The majority of people will have had mental health issues before that. But unfortunately, we are finding that the people under 25 aren't. They're not on the radar as clearly as some of the older people. And these people probably at that time of their life, at that intervention or that chat took place, the risk of suicide just goes away. Unfortunately, if you have mental health issues and they are difficult and you have a lifelong issue of either mental health issues or physical illness, that is a risk factor all of your life.
Substance addiction, presumably, as well.
Yes. I always think that the under 25s, that there is a chance to close that door. That's the part that I get upset about.
For sure. And maybe it's not me and you to have this conversation. I've kind of had it with others in the past, in that we react, or at least peer groups react, I think, in certain age groups whereby, and I understand people want to pay their tribute, but it's seen as tributes come along the way that in some way now the person's cured or better or in a better place, that they have taken a decision, and now the phraseology that can be used. I don't want to upset anyone who's used it in very good faith, but if you are under 25 and you see lots of people pouring out love and affection for someone, and it's portrayed as that person now has been released of something, that they're better, in a better place, is a phrase that some people actually even use, and I can understand where that commentary comes from. As an old man myself, I can sort of see the woods for the trees, right? But I'm concerned that maybe young people in my life, it puts it on the table of options. Because I think the way I would answer that is that I would advise anybody to, unfortunately, just visit a family that have been devastated by the suicide of a young person. It is just the numbness and the pain that family feel, and that completely and totally outweighs any other issue that you mentioned there at all. That if they just visualize and empathize with that poor family, particularly a young, healthy person, usually a male, I'm just talking about the under 25s, that there is just a very temporary feeling that they have, that they feel on a particular day. There's no other way out other than this. Then if a brief intervention could stop that and they never have it again. And if you love someone like that and that suddenly happens, the devastation is extraordinary, life-changing, and forever. And that's why I think that completely trumps the last few statements. And might be more difficult to process and come to terms with on any level than another type of sudden death.
I think so. And I apologise for someone. There are certain things that are not unexpected, and that at least allows you to prepare for something. But then when something is completely unexpected and potentially, just stoppable, that makes it just an awful experience.
A caller says, my brother did suffer from mental health issues, but was in a good place when he had a single vehicle car collision. We as a family talked so many times about it. Did he crash the car on purpose? Was it an accident? Did we miss something? Was he suffering again and we missed it? But my mother was happy, if that's the right word, that it was put down as an accident and not suicide. I've tried so many times to say, Mum, it's okay to use the word suicide. We really need a way to accept suicide is not a dirty word, but the evidence would suggest, and obviously people move at different paces individually, that and it's probably reflected in the coroner's figures you mentioned, that we are starting to be able to use the word or that finding more than we might have in the past.
I think that's a perfect sense. It isn't a dirty word. It's an awful tragedy. But I think it is important to talk about it, not so much to add pain to the people that have committed suicide, that have died through suicide. It is to try and prevent further suicide.
And you know the problem is, and this is why it's so complex, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a balance to be struck in completely destigmatizing anything. Not that there is a stigma, but let me just phrase that way, to destigmatize something, but at the same time not encourage or promote it.
Oh, I agree completely. And I think it's by information. It's about talking about suicide and its effects. I think the last thing we would want is in some way to say that it is acceptable. Once again, one will have to be very careful from the people.
It's very hard. I think our listeners will understand that it's difficult to choose the words.
If we can educate people that suicide is, it's not a dirty word, as the person. It's an awful tragedy, and if we can do anything we can to stop it, because suicide is not a dirty word. It is a horrendous tragedy, and the people left behind, their lives are changed. And if we can, that's what we need to allow people to see and to talk about suicide, not so much to stigmatize those, but to prevent further ones. And
okay.
I think that would be the best summary that I could give.
And it's perfect. We'll leave the summaries at that, because you've done far better than I tried to do. So tell us how this research project will work then going forward. I know you've outlined elements of it, but what's going to happen?
I think they mentioned at the meeting, and I haven't just mentioned it. I had any question. I'm sure Anita and Philip are sort of pulling their heads out. In that, what they're going to do is there is another research thing the CSO do, suicide figures, and it's very good. But I'm not sure about whether they catch all the probable suicides as well as this research, but it's still very reflective. So we have figures over the years, so the CSO figures will be able to tell us the general trends. But I do think that there will be, I think that Dr. Todd and Anita were saying that there will, in a medium term, be county-wide figures given as well, which is good. I think that there are so many different ways of, as a statistician, there's so many different ways of trying to get the right figures. But I think this is the best way of doing it. And I would hope that it will help us to understand and to target the resources as much as possible. And can I just talk about the what is available at the present minute in Donegal, which is really important? I think they're just the way for your listeners to realize that there's just visualization of talking about suicide support structures. But if there's somebody who has self-harmed or who we would feel has a death wish rather than a suicidal intent, there are resources at accident emergency. If you present with self-harm, there will be follow-up from that. If we feel there's somebody who is in severe danger, immediate danger, we will act. But then there's a thing called the scan nurses, which are a fantastic service, absolutely wonderful service, who will come and who will get involved at a very early stage. So I think the Connecting for Life has been a wonderful achievement. I think it was a very well organized and a well run campaign, and I think it just needs to be. I think we just need to remind ourselves of that. Listen, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay, particularly for young people, to talk about mental health. It's okay to go and speak to somebody about it. It's okay to see a health professional. But if you feel that way, there is help available.
And can I add to that too? Because, obviously on programs like this and elsewhere, we have to talk about any deficiencies there are in mental health services. And of course, there's been an awful lot of publicity about CAMHS of late. but it's the initial contact that often is the difference maker. Okay, in terms of access to long-term care, we have work to do in that regard. But if someone needs to speak to someone in this moment now, there are lots and lots of people that are there, lots of organisations, and it's that initial contact that is often the important one. So when we try and have productive conversations about where there are gaps in mental health services, I hope it would never discourage someone from making that first call or first contact, because it is crucial and critical, and the other stuff will follow. But make that first call, reach out that first time. I speak to so many people, Dennis, and I'm sure you've had, that have been in a difficult place and thought there was no way out. Some endured it for a day, some endured it for years. But once they unburdened themselves of that, to the many, many professionals that we have out there, or even a close friend, it changed their life forever. And as I say, it's so important that people make that initial contact, because people are so important. And this is the point I tried to make a week or two ago. Everyone is so, so important to all of us. You know, we would do anything for anyone, wouldn't we? And the thought that anyone feels that there isn't any hope or nowhere to turn, please don't think that, because you're a beautiful person and we need you. Make that call and reach out to someone. Dennis, obviously, Gardaí have access to figures about attempted suicide. The emergency services would, GPs would. I'm asking you this as a GP rather than a coroner. I don't think we collate that information. Should we be? Or maybe we are.
I think there is collation of it. I think the deliberate self-harm, there are actual figures on that, and I can't give you the exact...
No, that's okay. Okay, that's good if we are.
We actually do that. No, we do, and I think that because even by that sheer thing of them if they go to casualty immediately, they're in the system of the actual deliberate self-harm system. Okay. And it is, I think there are, all the information is there. Unfortunately, yes, I think not talking about the CAMS service particularly, it's just that there's a number of reasons for that, but there has been an explosion in mental health issues in adolescence. Now, some people would argue that, okay, we're trying to medicalize normal behavior. That may be to a certain degree, but there's been an explosion of psychological issues of anxiety and low self-worth in our adolescents. Now, it's so easy to sort of give glib answers as to why that is, but I do think that self-awareness, the self-assurance that we would have struggled with as adolescents, but we're able to manage is much harder now. And of course, we can say
I think we really, and I said this on the show again, and listen, I'm not a doctor or a politician, but we really need to examine if what we are currently doing and how we are engaging with our teens and supporting them is working or exacerbating. And I would love actually another full conversation on your phrase there, which I hadn't heard before, medicalising normal problems, because I think sometimes young people can think they've got a problem because we've given it a name or whatever it might be, when in fact maybe they don't. And I just think in us trying to make sure we don't upset or offend, or we care for everyone, that we're not in some way contributing to it. I'm not saying that's what you were saying in that phrase, by the way. It's just a concern I have as a parent.
I actually agree with you, but I think within that context of young people with psychological issues, there is a tendency to medicalize sort of normal children's behavior. But even when you subtract that away,
there's still a significant problem.
There's this huge
presentation with self-harm and what have you is what you're referencing, which is
if you look at the rates across Europe, the suicide is sort of settling, except in that younger group. And that's not only is it higher than they would like, but it's in certain countries it's actually going up. And I think we have to be vigilant, and we have to be aware and be as proactive as we can about that.
Yeah. And we need to make sure that our children aren't getting their mental health advice on TikTok and other social media outlets where they're also actually in that process. They are a product to certain people. thanks for such a wide-ranging conversation there, Dr. Dennis McCauley. I really do appreciate it. I think we are moving in the right direction, and we can address a problem when we can recognise the extent of it, or an issue, whichever way. But for now, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's greatly appreciated. That is Dr. Dennis McCauley, of course, a GP, also the county coroner. I'll get some numbers together for maybe some of you that might want me to read them out to you. I'll do that. We have a quick break to take. Stay where you are.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 912-9562 and bring care home.
Are you thinking of changing your car? Then look no further than Inishowen Credit Union for your finance. It's simple. A car loan from Inishowen Credit Union means you borrow the money to pay for your car and the car is yours. No hidden fees or balloon payments. Apply online at www.inishowencu.ie or contact us on 074 9361017. Membership of Inishowen Credit Union is open to anyone who lives or works in the Inishowen Peninsula. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. Inishowen Credit Union is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Do you know what I love about Letterkenny Shopping Centre? I love it because everything I need is under one roof. There's fashion shopping for women and men, health foods and cosmetics, Tesco's and Pennies, free parking and late night shopping Thursday and Friday. I love it because Letterkenny Shopping Centre has it all, including homeware, jewellery, hair and beauty and Revolution Laundry and their free car park. Letterkenny Shopping Centre. So much choice and open 7 days.
There's never been a better time to go full Lidl. Let's hear it from our customers.
It's great value for money, and it's first and foremost.
Anyone that has a big family, they should be shopping in Lidl, without a doubt. Do you have a holiday at the end of the year?
Go on, go full Lidl today.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 912-9562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House, Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €1,750 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
This January, staying in is the new going out. At Kelly Centre Mountaintop, we've mega deals in fresh, healthy, ready meals range with great deals in our award-winning off-licence and winning offers in fresh meat and produce. Kelly Centre Mountaintop, 2022 winner of the National Forecourt Retailer of the Year.
Highland Radio are going to Scotland from Monday the 1st of May to Thursday the 4th of May with the very best of music, and we would love for you to join us. Staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow, we are bringing with us some of the biggest country stars, including myself, David James, Declan Ernie and Robert Mazzell, to name a few. You will enjoy luxury travel to Glasgow, 3 nights dinner, bed and breakfast with music and entertainment each evening. Join us on the Highland Fling to Glasgow this May for only €575 per person. To book, call Highland Radio today on 074 91 25,000. Early booking is advisable. Single supplement applies.
Okay, some numbers for you here. If you were affected by that last conversation, you can contact the Samaritans on 116 123. Aware 1800 80 48 48. Pieta House 1800 247 247. Jigsaw, you can email help@jigsaw.ie, or to start a conversation, text hello to 50808. I'll read that a different way in case it's easier to track. Text hello to 50808 to start a text conversation. And we appreciate Dr. Dennis McCauley coming on with us here. Don't dismiss me as a fanatic or simpleton, but our young people need to be brought to Jesus. There's a vast empty space that should be filled by prayer and relationships, either God. That's your religious views. You never have to apologise for your religious views, certainly not on this programme, by the way. If that's what you believe and that's worked for you in your faith, well then, you don't have to preface it with an apology. I understand where you're coming from, but I fully respect your religious beliefs and you believing that that might help other people. Just to warn, and for all the drivers on the Point Road, Lochross Point, all the potholes, which I'm after wrecking my tyre on. Please ring the council or councillors to deal with this. Okay, that's the Lochross Point on the Point Road there. Lifford, hi folks. I'd be grateful for a shout out to my own retired racer, Skinny Jeans, who won at the old Lifford track back in 2013. She'll be 13 years old on the 2nd of February, and hopefully she'll get a visit to the hallowed sand for a wee walk when the track reopens on the 2nd of April. That comes in from Linda Boner. Skinny Jeans, and it's Genes, not like denim jeans. Okay. Hi Greg, is there a new app for Highland Radio? My app has disappeared. Don't know how to answer that question. There's an app. Is it new? I don't know what the story is. I'll get on to Oisín and give you an answer tomorrow. Okay. Listen, the website is an app. So if you go on your mobile device, go to highlandradio.com. It presents as a website, right? And you can go save as bookmark and bookmark it to your phone screen. And it operates the exact same as an app does, by the way. So go to this is what I'd suggest you do. Go to highlandradio.com, and whichever iPhone you're on or Android, you click the 3 dashes or however you add a bookmark. It'll ask you where you add your bookmark. Add it to your home screen, right? And it's the exact same as an app, and it's regularly updated, 100% stable, and Fanula spent a fortune making it so. So that's what I suggest you do. There's a wee video going around that suggests you do something else, but I'm not getting involved in that. Fair play to your show contributor, David Cullinan of Sinn Féin, their health spokesperson, for holding the government to account. Well, he's responding to an article that held him to account, but we'll see how it goes. I understand where you're coming from. I've Jane's first and second books. I got them on Amazon. I'm getting third book now this week. What a great read, okay? It was great to have her in too. Really interesting lady. Hi, I wonder, do you know what time the special concert for Creasla is on in the Aura? There's no time on the tickets. Doors open at 7, show starts at 8. Okay, doors open at 7, show starts at 8. All right, I think that's just about us for this Monday morning. I'm off tomorrow, so you have the pleasure of Donald Kavanagh's company between 9 and 12. I'm back with you bright and early, well, certainly early. We'll see how bright I am on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. Thanks to Caroline Orr, who researched and produced the show. Have a great Monday. Stay tuned, why don't you? Because John Breslin's coming up with his usual great mix of music and chat and conversation and crack. Donna Marie's coming up shortly with the news. In fact, I'll be polite and say good afternoon, Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon. A meeting is being held this week on progressing the campaign for redress for defective block homeowners in Donegal. The MICA Action Group is urging people to attend on Thursday at the Station House Hotel, Letterkenny. The group issued a letter to all Donegal County Councillors last week to put pressure on the government to deliver. Up to 60 new jobs are to be created in Lifford with the reopening of Lifford Greyhound Stadium.